Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our City Commission meeting on Wednesday, August 19th. Oh my gosh, I almost didn't know what date it was. I hope you're all safe. I hope you're all happy. I hope your students, your children got off to a good start. And thank you to all the teachers for what you do. We'll start with a roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Brook?
Here.
Vice Mayor Carter? I see you. Commissioner Sarah?
Present.
Commissioner Vignola?
Here.
Commissioner Simmons?
Here.
City Manager Babinick?
Here.
City Attorney Hearn?
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to rise. You don't have to, for a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll join me for a moment or a minute of silence. Thank you. Thank you very much. Cheyenne, how are you? Would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Of course.
All right.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
To the Republic.
And to the Republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you, Cheyenne. Appreciate that. And now we'll have our amazing city attorney read the virtual meeting statement.
Thank you, Mayor. This meeting shall be held in accordance with Coral Springs Resolution 2020-16. Due to the ongoing state of emergency and recommendation from public health authorities, the City of Coral Springs recommends that all persons view and participate in this meeting through electronic means. The meeting can be viewed on City TV, Bluestream Channel 725, 25, 25.7, and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. Online at coralsprings.org/citytv and can be heard on City Radio 1670 AM. For those individuals who may not have access to view the meeting by any of those virtual means provided above, the city is providing access to view the meeting on City TV outside the Coral Springs Municipal Complex at 9500 West Sample Road. If you plan to attend there, please practice social distancing, not standing closer than 6 feet to those around you, and wear a mask. Public comment tonight will be received by phone and email. I understand we have some. The local call number is 954-344-5900. To submit a written public comment, please complete the form located at www.coralsprings.org/public comment. If you are outside, you will be able to call in and someone will assist you in that. Mayor, it's your meeting.
Great. Thank you very much, JJ. Our first presentation is coming from our wonderful Broward County property appraiser and a good friend of mine, Marty Kerr. Welcome. So great to see you again.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And I want to thank you and your wonderful city commission for having me on today. I've been looking forward to this. You know, I love Coral Springs. And when I was first elected to the State House of Representatives many years ago, Coral Springs was in the district. And I have to tell you, out of everybody I've ever met in Coral Springs, I've never met somebody that dislikes living in Coral Springs. It is a great place, and you all do a fabulous job. Your staff's wonderful, and I actually have some very interesting numbers tonight that I'm very excited to share with you. And I promise I won't take up too much of your time because I know you all are very busy with the big agenda. But I just was hoping to briefly just let the residents know, you know, what we do in our office, and then I would love to go and share some of the numbers of where Coral Springs is right now and kind of explain them a little bit, because I think they're very encouraging. Coral Springs is doing very, very well. For the residents, there are a few main functions to our office. The first function is we determine the value of every piece of property in Broward County, whether it's residential, commercial, tangible personal property, or centrally assessed property, which are railroads. And the reason that's important is because when people pay their property taxes, the amount of taxes they pay is the relationship between the value of the property that we set and the tax rate set by your local governments. So the higher the value of the property, the more taxes people pay. The lower the value of the property, the lower amount of taxes they pay. And so what we want to do is make sure we get it right. And right now, I'm so glad to come on right now, because right now we're actually sending out the truth and millage notices to everybody in Broward County. And the residents of Coral Springs have either got them or they'll get them very soon. And those truth and millage notices, I always say they're not a tax bill. They're basically a document so you can make sure you don't overly pay in your property taxes, and when your tax bill in November comes out, that it's going to be correct. And that's going to show the value of your property that I just spoke about, all the tax saving exemptions that you're currently getting. It'll show the proposed millage rates your local governments are thinking about setting. the dates and time that they're going to have their budget hearings, and the proposed amount of property taxes that you're going to be asked to pay. And if you have any concern with the value of the property, you're not getting every tax saving exemption you're entitled to, you have till September 18th to call me so that we can apply those tax saving exemptions. We can make sure your value is correct. So when your November tax bill comes out, that'll be accurate and really reflect what you're supposed to pay, and so you won't be paying too much. That brings me to the second thing that we do, and we give tax saving exemptions to folks that qualify. And there are many exemptions under Florida law that people qualify for. The most important one is a homestead exemption. If you live in Coral Springs and this is your primary residence, you're entitled to that exemption. What that basically means, about $50,000 of value will be taken off the tax roll you no longer pay taxes on. Can save you off the top $800, $900, maybe $1,000 a year. But most importantly, what it does, it really protects you going forward because it caps the value you're taxed on either 3% a year or the consumer price index, whichever is lower. This year, the consumer price index was 2.1%. So that means even if your market value went up 50, 60, 70, 80%, the value that you're taxed on couldn't go up more than 2.1%. It's the homestead exemption is so important. And there are many other exemptions as well. There are exemptions for veterans, for seniors, for first responders, exemptions for people with disabilities. And please go on our website at bcpa.net, click on exemptions. And if there's something that you're not getting, please give me a holler because we have again till September 18th to apply it. The third thing I wanted to quickly talk about before I get into some interesting numbers is our third function is we also make sure that people cannot fraud and cheat the system. You know, when you're entitled to a tax saving exemption, you should get it. That's yours under the Constitution. You've earned that. Conversely, if somebody's doing something they're not supposed to do, if they're frauding the system, if they're claiming an exemption and are not supposed to get that exemption, that's not okay either. Because what that really does at the end of the day, they may be saving a little bit of money by frauding the system, but it'll make everybody else in Coral Springs pay more and put a lot of pressure on your city commission and staff to have to figure out how to fill those budget gaps. And that's not right either. So we actually have a very aggressive fraud division that goes throughout the county every single day, and it cracks down on people who aren't playing by the rules. So I just wanted to bring that up. Our fraud division has put about $7 billion of value back on the tax roll. We've actually collected millions of dollars of back taxes from people who have been cheating the system and have returned that to the taxpayers. I love that department because they're really there to protect the public as a whole, to make sure that everybody is treated fairly and accurately across the board. The last thing I wanted to talk about before I get into these numbers, if we could help anybody, call me, go on our website at bcpa.net, email me at martykiar@bcpa.net, that's MARTYKIAR at bcpa.net, or call me at 954-357-6904. I would love to help you, love to serve you. So anything I could do would be my absolute pleasure. With that said, I wanted to quickly go through some numbers for the city of Coral Springs, because Coral Springs is doing very well. And when I bring up these numbers, the first thing that I need to make reference to is that these numbers are of January 1st, 2020. Under Florida law, when we determine the value of all property, we have to look at January 1st. That's our date of assessment. And we have to look at all the data from the year before when we determine those values. We're prohibited by law from looking after January 1st. So a question that I've been getting from a lot of people, and rightfully so, is how has this terrible pandemic affected property values for this year? Well, under Florida law, we can't look past January 1st. And as you know, 2019 was very strong. Businesses were strong in 2019. Home sales were strong in 2019. And that's the data we have to use for this year, where the terrible effects of this horrible pandemic will be utilized by our office and taken into consideration is for next year. So on January 1st, 2021, we're going to look at everything that happened, and that's how we'll determine the value for 2021. So your November tax bill of 2021 is when the effects of the coronavirus will be utilized in determining the value partially in the values of your property. But for this year, we had to look at January 1st. And on January 1st, it was pretty strong. And let me tell you what it was on January 1st, 2019, and I'll show you the increase that Coral Springs saw this year to 2020. So if you take all the market value in Coral Springs, now this isn't the value that you set your tax rates on. It's basically just an interesting number of all the commercial and residential property in Coral Springs. And if you sold it on the open market on January 1st, 2019, you would have got right about $15.3 billion. For 2020, because a lot of people have moved to Coral Springs, because there's been some, there were some significant new properties that were built and new buildings added to the tax roll, there was a 4% increase in value to about $15.9 billion. So Coral Springs has definitely been heading in the right direction. Now, the taxable value also saw an increase. That's basically the value that the city commission is setting its tax rates on to determine how much money it needs to provide awesome services to the people of Coral Springs. And in 2019, the taxable value was right about $10.66 billion. For 2020, there was a 5.58% increase in value to about $11.254 billion. And to put that in perspective, the 2019 millage rate was right about 5.8732. If Coral Springs kept the same millage rate, it would see an additional $3.5 million more in its budget this year than last year. That number can change a little bit with value adjustment board hearings, things of that nature, but the city is going in the right direction. And I need to also note, though, that the vast majority of that increase is not being paid for by the average everyday property owner in Coral Springs because they're homesteaded. If you're homesteaded, the value you're taxed on couldn't go up more than 2.1%. That increase is really because you've had interesting big properties placed in the tax roll. For example, there was a Costco valued at $19 million we put on the tax roll, another $18 million warehouse. You had medical offices. You had a lot of new construction that was added to the tax roll. You also had a lot of people that moved into Coral Springs for the first time, and that they pay at market value. And that's because Coral Springs is a great place to live. You see a lot of movement there. And you've had a lot of portability value transferred in Coral Springs. Then that's really where that money is being paid. You have about 25,277 homestead exemptions. You have 682 seniors who are low-income seniors that receive an exemption. This exemption I really love, and I like to bring it up because Coral Springs actually has a lot of these American heroes. There is 192 totally and permanently disabled veterans who became disabled, 100% disabled while serving us. It's all service connected. They pay nothing in property taxes. They have made Coral Springs their home. I think it's a great thing. You also have 4 totally and permanently disabled first responders, and you even have 4 members of the military who are deployed and their families are receiving a tax exemption. So Coral Springs is really a great place that a lot of American heroes like to call home. To give you an idea, the average single family homes, this is all homestead and non-homestead, but if you're single family, you have right about 25,000 single family homes. The average market value for single family homes is right about 377,000, and the average taxable value is about 245,000. You have about 12,182 total condominium parcels, and with an average market value of 125,000 and average taxable value of 87,000. With that said, I can go on and on forever, but I wanted to bring those numbers up just because Coral Springs is doing very well. And I really think that's one, it's a testament to the wonderful people that live there, but it's also a testament to the government in Coral Springs. Because I have to tell you, Mayor Brook and your city commission, you all do an excellent job. And what I've learned is when a city commission and its staff provide great services for the people, then people want to live there. They want to make it their home. When you have lots of great parks and things for families to do, and Coral Springs really does that. And that's why you really see so many people calling Coral Springs their home, where they raise their family and are just very, very happy. With that said, I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Vice Mayor Carter, Commissioner Simmons, everybody. You guys are just awesome. Is there anything I can answer of you? I've had like 8 cups of coffee, 2 Red Bulls, and a Diet Coke, so I'm kind of wired. So I apologize about that.
You did a great job. You're doing a great job. We really appreciate all the numbers. I'll call on Commissioner Simmons first. I saw his hand up first.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Marty. As always, I think when you sought this position and then, overwhelmingly ran for re-election, well supported by the county and the state, we know that you would greet this job with gusto and and seriousness that we've not seen before in a property appraiser's office. So we appreciate you,
Thank you.
Sending all that information out there. The only question I have is because we actually just received our trim notice, and I was reading through it, and so we were curious. There's 2 lines on there, and it says homestead and then additional homestead. If it says additional homestead, is that the Homestead Exemption Act that was applied for?
It is. So basically, and that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking it. And also, and thank you for the great work you do. I think you're a very dear friend, and you serve just excellent in the city of Coral Springs, Joshua. You really do. And you almost made me, like I said, boycott JetBlue because I was mad what they were doing to me, But since they came through, though, I kind of I forgave them. I'm going to fly them again, But so basically the way it works is, and the reason it's called an additional homestead is that's part of your $50,000 homestead exemption. Everybody, no matter what, on the first $25,000 of value of their property, have a $25,000 homestead exemption. Then what happens? The second $25,000 you pay taxes on, but then from $50,000 to $75,000 of value, that's where that second homestead exemption comes in. And the reason we have it separated is for two reasons. One, it doesn't include the school portion of your tax bill. And also there are people that get the first $25,000, but then the value of their property is not greater than $50,000. So they don't get that second homestead exemption because it's basically in the third $25,000 of value. So from 50 to 75,000 is when it kicks in. So it's part of the whole homestead exemption, but it's separated that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it.
Oh, it's a great question. It really is.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? So I'm just curious, Marty, how often are there applications to adjust the value? And generally speaking, what's the percentage of time that the value is adjusted?
That is a great question. I really appreciate you asking that, Mayor. We determine, of course, the value of property in January. Trim notices just went out. And so now the people of Broward County and of Coral Springs, they got their trim notices, the truth and millage notice, which again isn't a tax bill. It's so we can make sure that their real tax bill, when it's sent by the tax collector's office in November, is accurate. And so they have right now from today, until September 18th to contact our office, and then we can do something about it. If they can show us information as to whether or not they're entitled to a new exemption or if they are entitled to a reduction. Actually, some people actually ask for an increase for portability purposes, but we can work on it until September 18th. Now, if people also have other options too. If they can also file a appeal with with the Value Adjustment Board, and they have to file their petition by September 18th. I believe it's only a $15 filing fee, and so after they do that, we can then work on it after September 18th, as long as they have that petition. And also, and if we can't work it out, if we think our value is correct, then we can go to the Value Adjustment Board, and both the petitioner and our office can put it before the Value Adjustment Board, and they can make a determination. Technically, we can work with anybody till September 18th, and we can work with anybody else that has filed the petition after September, as long as they filed the petition prior to September 18th. Did I answer the question?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I always tell everybody, I go, when people go to the Value Adjustment Board, I don't look at that as an adversarial process. For me, it's really just finding the true value of property. We're mass appraisers, we're not fee appraisers. When we appraise, residences, for example, every single year, we don't know what the inside of the properties look like. We basically just know what the square footage is, the location, and we see all the comparable sales from the year before, and we adjust those to fit the subject property to determine its value. And so maybe people have information that we don't have. Maybe they've had water damage, or the inside of the house is dilapidated, or there's something that we can use that can help us reduce it. And so I always tell everybody, we just want to get to the true value. So you only pay your fair share of property taxes, so you're treated fairly. And if you think we're wrong, you think we're off, let's go through it together. And if we still can't agree, the Value Adjustment Board is a great avenue for the public.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. Anything further from the commission? All right, Commissioner Vignola.
Marty, I just want to thank you. Back when you were a state rep, you were awesome to us as a county commissioner in the office, and always great to hear. Anytime anyone has any issues, you are more than available, and it does mean a lot to us. And we know anytime anyone needs anything, you're always just a phone call away.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure working and serving with you over the years.
Oh, thank you so much, Larry. I appreciate it. And thank you for your service as well. That's so nice of you to say. And, like I said, I just love Coral Springs. It is such a great community. And honestly, the city has been so good to me for so long. And I just really appreciate the great work that your entire commission does every single day, for the people of Broward County. And also, I wanted to just give Joy a shout out. I know Joy is a realtor, and I wanted to mention this because Realtors are my office's windows to the world. We get to help so many people because their realtors send them our way. And Joy, thank you so much for doing that all the time. You know, it makes me, you know, a lot of times people don't exactly know what we can do, but when somebody closes on a property and they say, hey, look, why don't you call Marty's office? We can sign up for a homestead exemption, portability. And I wanted to bring that up because if there's anybody out there, any resident that is a realtor and you have a client, send them our way because we want to make sure they save as much money as possible on their property taxes and are treated fairly. So I just thought I'd give that little plug to realtors and thank you, Joy, for what you do. But
make our job easy. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I appreciate it so much, Mayor, for you giving me the opportunity to say a few words. I was really looking forward to this. And also, by the way, I know that John is your city attorney. He is one heck of a city attorney, and he has beaten me in basketball probably more times than I can even count on my hand. You know, we used to play a lot way back in the day.
We were young.
He's pretty good. It's true. And because he was on and he's a Notre Dame fan, I decided to bring my Hurricane Cup. You know, that's for you, John. You know, so, absolutely.
It's all about the you. It's all about
the you.
Oh, God, you're killing me, Marty. You're killing me.
But I
thank you
grew up,
so much,
John, as a fan of Adrian Dantley and the Fighting Irish growing up in Manhattan.
There you go.
Marty, thank you so much for the job that you do and the enthusiasm you share and the family man that you are and the community organizer and everything you do.
Thank you.
You're awesome. We're crazy about you
you.
here in Coral Springs, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Brook. I really appreciate it. And you all have an absolutely wonderful day. Thank you again for allowing me to appear on. Take care.
You
Bye.
bet. Thank you. So our next item on the agenda is a recognition of Shelly Sitton Tajelski. And Shelly, if I have botched your name, I so apologize. I don't know if Shelly's here. I see the next recognition is here, Mahek and Cheyenne, but I'm not sure if Shelly's here.
I don't see Shelly, Mayor. I'm looking in the group here.
So I'll still share a little bit about Shelly, and I'm so glad that our youth are here to accept their recognition. But Shelly is a mindfulness teacher. She's also a community organizer. She's worked with our local community here in Parkland and Coral Springs. She has offered trauma-informed healing practices and retreats to the survivors of Marjory Stoneman Douglas, to the victims' families, and to our community. I got to meet her at a local mindfulness retreat that she had with many community leaders about a year ago. And she started something called the Pandemic of Love. So here you see on the screen, she has a Pandemic of Love organization. They've helped people that needed rent payments, groceries, and other resources during this COVID crisis. And she actually helped match more than 235,000 people that had a need with those who were able to provide aid. So on behalf of the City Commission, Sean, Larry, Joshua, Joy, and myself, Shelly, we commend you for your initiative, for your hard work, and for your love of our community. And if you want to learn more information, it's www.pandemicoflove.com. Shelly, sorry you couldn't join us this evening, but you are recognized and you're appreciated. And thank you for all you do for people well beyond our local community too. So we have these two great young people that I got to meet when they helped lead a very peaceful, loving, strong, profound protest shortly after the brutal murder of George Floyd. And I just wanted to share our recognition from the City Commission. I had asked for the City Commission approval. I just thought you reaching out to the city, engaging our awesome commissioner, Joshua Simmons, and having the involvement of Nancy Mateo, reaching out to our police department. Just, you know, I think if I'm right, your ages at that time were 17 and 19. So to be that young and that astute and kind of willing to take a risk and have it turn out the way that it did was amazing to be a part of. I'm even getting goosebumps right now because I remember listening to Pastor Hughes and Pastor Oral Walters and the other speakers, and just feeling all this incredible spirit, on the corner of Sample and University because of your efforts. So if they can put up the proclamation, Matt, if you're there. This is special recognition for Mehek Mandiani and Cheyenne Shivji. And please correct me when I call on you guys to speak. We honor you both as organizers of the June 2, 2020 protest in response to the killing of George Floyd. More than 500 people attended the peaceful event. Thank you for your efforts to generate dialogue and understanding and for helping to bring our community together. Thank you so much. And if there was a room, everybody would be clapping for you guys. So we honor you. Love to hear from you both. And then I'd love to give anyone on the commission an opportunity to be heard, especially Commissioner Simmons, since he was an integral part. So Mehek, why don't we start with you?
Honestly, I didn't it's still it doesn't feel as if I still did enough. Wow, my son's really bright, sorry. But honestly, it's just something that me and Cheyenne felt as if we needed to do. It's not it's not something that we did to do this, to do that. It's just it was a human thing. We had to speak up, we had to fight, we had to bring our city together. And honestly, we're so thankful. I'm so happy. I know Cheyenne and me, we always talk about it wow, we really did that. We really started that. But honestly, it's still a dream. We can't believe it. And we're really grateful for all the support we got, and just truly hope we can have more youth come out, more youth to do this, and hopefully make a change within our city as well.
Awesome. And I'll let you know, I believe your acceptance of this recognition is historic, because I don't think through COVID we've had another recognition of somebody that was there to accept it. I don't know if somebody can correct me, but you guys may be the first to be present. So tonight's a historic night for our community and for you both. Cheyenne, up to you now. Thank you, Mehek.
I just wanted to start by thanking everyone here. Thank you, Mayor Scott Brook and City Commissioner. I honestly, I'm having hard for words right now, but I just wanted to say that this is just the beginning, and I personally am vowing right here to make a further difference. I will run for political leadership hopefully one day. I have big dreams and big ideas for some of the changes that I think are needed in the world, and I'm just happy to be a part of something and to continue the movement. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're very proud of you both. Thank you very much. Would anybody on the commission like to be heard? Commissioner Simmons? Anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mehek and Cheyenne, if you remember, kind of towards the end, I was speaking to you both and I told you to look around and do you remember what I said to you? Anyway, no, it's okay if you don't, but you did this.
I do.
Yeah, you did this, right? When you saw all the people there, and it was, and it was kind of, I know, stressful at first because you had started to see all the negative social media comments and the people resorting to fear instead of embracing what could be, and and people were saying not so nice things to you. So I'm sorry that at such a young age, when you're trying to do something so good, that some people decided to show the worst of themselves to you. But you know what? When you are doing what's right and you're doing your best to help folks, you're going to run into people like that. And I'm so proud of you both for continuing to persevere. I am grateful that you listened and that you made sure that the issues were centered, that Black lives were centered with this protest. And the city had never seen anything like that before. And so, again, thank you. Continue to help others, continue to be warriors and advocates for justice, and continue to do what's right.
Awesome. Vice Mayor?
Yes, I also attended and was very, very impressed. And I just hope and pray that you continue on this path of greatness. And I wish you both well.
Thank you so much.
Mehek and Cheyenne, that was a pivotal point in our community. That was a pivotal point here. And you guys shone. And you shone a light on our community in a very positive, respectful, loving, inviting way at a very, very, very tough time for many people. So I really appreciate it. Commissioner Sarah, I know you were there too. Would you like to share a couple of words?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Just congratulations and thanks to both of you. You guys did a beautiful job that day, and I was proud to be a part of it. And you did make history, and just go off and do great things. And please know that we will always remember your leadership on that particular afternoon. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We wish you guys a lot of luck. Please stay in touch with us. And Cheyenne, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have and support you in running for office whenever you run, because the world needs you.
Thank you. That means a lot. That really means
The world
a lot.
needs you in Mahek, for sure. So thank you
Thank you.
guys again. We'll move on the agenda. You are welcome to stay. You are welcome to go. You probably have busy lives too. So thank you again for being here tonight to accept your
Thank you
recognition.
for this award. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. All right. That was great. Thank you, team. We are on to public comment, and we have Robert Kernow coordinating our phone waiting room, I believe.
Well, actually, Mayor, if I may,
Caggiano.
if I
Yes,
may,
go
Mayor,
ahead, Deborah, please.
we have 28 signed speakers that asked to yield their time to speakers number 1 and number 2. And it's regarding sober homes. The first speaker is Elizabeth, I'm bad at names, Elizabeth Perez. And the next person is Jonathan Korb. So they've asked that, the 28 people have asked that their time be yielded to the 2 of them.
Okay. All right. I got you. So if we had all 28 people come, we'd be here for about 90 minutes just for public comment. So that you yielded the time. Hopefully Elizabeth and Jonathan can not take up 45 minutes each. So let's hear what they'd like to share for how long, and we'll go beyond 3 minutes for sure. But I'll ask them in advance what their intentions are. So Elizabeth is our first speaker then?
Correct. So we'll just take a moment while Robert connects us to the first
Sure.
speaker. And for your information, we do have 8 signed speakers for public comment.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I have Elizabeth on the line.
Great. Welcome, Elizabeth. If you would let us know your name and your address and about how long you'd like to share with us this evening.
Of course. Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Besaid Perez. I live at 9551 Northwest 39th Court. I promise I will not take 45 minutes. I will take just a few minutes of your time.
Great.
So if I may begin.
Please.
Thank you for allowing us, over 20 residents, the opportunity to address this body. We come before the commission collectively as property owners to express our concerns regarding a cluster of sober homes in the Hills community. Currently, 9701 Northwest 39th Court and 4171 Northwest 101st Drive operate as sober homes. These properties are owned by shell corporations that trace back to Legacy Healing Center, Margate. 2 orders issued in 2018 and 2019 allow Legacy to house 11 recovering addicts at each dwelling, 22 in total, in addition to collectively housing 5 staff members. For emphasis, per the property appraiser's records, 4171 Northwest 101st Drive is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3,758 square foot dwelling that is currently housing 13 non-related persons in addiction recovery. It should be further noted a misrepresentation of square feet was made in the order granting an accommodation in petitioner's favor of nearly 600 square feet. While many housing trades are likely to require modification to support such a large group in a continuous living arrangement, a cursory review of public records does not indicate operator has installed proper septic equipment to support the number of persons living in these facilities. This is only one example of considerations that must be reviewed when addressing these types of group homes. Both properties have a steady stream of traffic and constantly shuttle between the dwellings. Multiple vendors outside the scope of normal residential activity include mobile massage services, portable gym and MMA type activity, food trucks, frequent mattress deliveries, and large moving truck services, all observed by residents. More alarmingly, representations made by Legacy on their website and confirmed by a company representative, as well as the pattern of activity at these properties, clearly note treatment activity rather than merely sober living is granted through the reasonable accommodation. Recently, the property located at 9500 Northwest 40th Street has been purchased by another shell corporation, tracing back to Legacy Healing Center Margate. An increased activity of site work, deliveries, and foot traffic has been observed. Numerous vendors are being shared between the established properties and now the 9500 property. We believe Legacy is seeking to establish another sober home. If our observations are correct, Legacy Healing Center Margate will have established 3 sober homes in less than a half-mile radius, all in the Hills community. If the city of Coral Springs allows this by not vigorously fighting the establishment of another sober home, it is allowing Legacy to fundamentally alter this community by making this a haven for these types of businesses. And to be clear, the city's hands are not completely tied due to federal law, as many sister cities such as Parkland have prevailed against these operators, either by denial, complete dissolution, or substantial reduction of permitted persons via reasonable accommodation. In 2016, the U.S. Justice Department and the Department of Housing and Urban Development issued a joint statement clarifying several points relative to group homes. A city can deny an accommodation for a group home if it would impose an undue financial and administrative burden on local government, or if granting it would fundamentally alter the city's zoning scheme. Factors that can be considered include the proximity of group homes to one another. Licensing and other requirements for group homes for health and safety purposes are permitted if equally applied to all homes with a minimum number of unrelated residents. And the Fair Housing Act does not prevent state and local governments from taking action on criminal activity, fraud, neglect, abuse of residents. Having appropriate, zealous, and expert legal counsel is imperative in representing the interests of the community and ensuring a suitable balance is established. I have taken the liberty of forwarding to the City Attorney's Office the name and contact information of an attorney who specializes in this area of law and has been successful in representing many cities, such as Parkland, and neighborhood groups in navigating these issues. We implore members of this commission to actively engage in this issue as it is ever growing and vital to the composition of our communities. We request review of the current orders for the 4171 and 9701 properties, and specifically request the commission proceed action to vacate these orders to allow for a more thorough investigation and review of Legacy's activities. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being concise. Appreciate it. And thank you for bringing your concerns on behalf of so many others to us. Our next speaker, Deborah?
It will be Jonathan Korb.
Welcome, Jonathan.
It'll just be a minute to transition.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I have Jonathan on the line.
All right. Great. Welcome, Jonathan.
All right. Thank you for having me. And I also promise I will not take the 45 minutes needed. It should be under 10 at the most. So obviously want to thank you all for taking the time today to discuss this. And I agree and concur with the previous speaker on the concerns stated. But I wish to offer a little more context, as I believe this is it's just a matter of time before it becomes a major issue for the city of Coral Springs. The sober homes that are owned and operated by Legacy Healing, which I'll be using Legacy moving forward, with all their names. Now understand, these aren't DBAs. They have CS1, CS2, HEV, and who knows the others that they have. They're all shell companies. So, and these are basically in the Hills residents in the area. And basically what they're doing is they are fundamentally altering the neighborhood. They're clustering these types of homes, which is not even therapeutic for the patients. Not to mention, I personally believe Legacy is a poor representation for our community. I would like to start by delving deeper into the U.S. Census block data and our specific track, which is 203.11. From a basic review, you can discern that there should have never been a home approved for special accommodations with the number of patients that were granted, or let alone a second home, and now potentially a third. The population makeup of homes in our census tract clearly show that we live in a low density area. A house with 13 or more people does not fit into the neighborhood, as this again is going to fundamentally alter our community. Now, in addition, data does suggest through a study done by Longwood University, which is located in the Central Virginia area, that homes surrounding these types of facilities lose roughly 8%, and in some cases 17% of their value. The worst case would be determined to specifically be like an opiate center. The primary residence is perhaps the greatest single investment made by an individual. So this means that not only do current homeowners potentially lose on their largest investment, but the city in turn is losing tax dollars to the lower values, thus potentially limiting services to the community. This is a no-win solution, especially when clustering takes effect, with which Legacy is attempting in our neighborhood. Now, as for crime, I wasn't able to find exact percentages as it varies quite a bit. However, I can tell you from a personal experience, and while speaking with neighbors, since Legacy moved into our community, we are having more issues. Examples are, we had a potential child abduction. We've had theft. And believe it or not, just last night at 1:30 in the morning, right off of Coral Hills Drive, a car was stolen. And that house is literally only 3 houses down from 9701 Northwest 39th Court. Now you can call that coincidence, but there are times when questionable people are visiting these homes. Not to mention, it's a revolving door of care of recovering addicts going in and out. Now, we are aware it's exceedingly difficult to recover fully, and roughly 80% of these recovering addicts relapse. It's not easy, and we understand that. However, the concern now turns to those with bad intentions, as they now know there is a decent area they can return to when they are released or forcibly removed from the home. Thus, the neighborhood safety is compromised. In my opinion, Legacy uses the Ask Forgiveness Plan. Basically, what they do is they go and open up homes and then look for special accommodations after the fact. This was done for the home located at 9701 Northwest 39th Court. And again, it was done with a home in Parkland, located on Northwest 80th Terrace. In addition, as we mentioned earlier, they are now using shell companies to disguise the true owner, which leads to the perception of a fraudulent enterprise covering their tracks. Now, if they were truly looking to operate in good faith, they would be a part of FAR, which is the Florida Association of Recovery Residences. But guess what? They are not. And you know what? It may be, and it just may be that they can't, because they have a felon running the company for Legacy. He was arrested in 2008 and 2018 with illicit and prescription drug charges and was criminally charged. Not to mention, their lead medical representative is only certified and holds no known doctorate degree. Their attempt to continue to add homes in a close proximity to each other shows Legacy is using the clustering tactic to take advantage of our city. It is my opinion, if the city does not act now, we will be dealing with bigger issues down the road. It is also my belief that the city of Coral Springs and you as the representatives do not fully understand the importance of this issue or the details involved. Now, I don't blame any of you, as there is a lot to this, and we are not all experts on everything. I commend all of you for pushing for the bill that makes FAR mandatory and to become law, but that's not enough. We have to go a little bit further. And what we can do is just take a look at some of the options other localities have done and been successful. Looking for example, you don't have to go very far. Palm Beach County and several cities have started to offer much better guidelines to protect neighborhoods and those seeking help. If you're not aware, Palm Beach State Attorney created a Sober Homes Task Force. Since 2016, the Sober Home Task Force has made over 103 arrests, and this is led by Palm Beach State Attorney David Ehrenberg. In Fort Lauderdale, the mayor said he thinks that ultimately recovering addicts will be helped by having fewer people in the same situation in their immediate vicinity, in an environment that more closely resembles the wider world. These rules, he said, allows for sober homes to exist in our city, but helps maintain a diversity we feel is important for a healthy neighborhood environment. The former Delray Beach mayor, Carrie Glickstein, oversaw the passage of the tougher rules and said having more drug addicts concentrated in one place was making the problem worse. Glickstein said it makes sense that clustered homes for those in recovery was aggravating the problem. And he further stated, clustering community residents, especially recovering residences on a block in a neighborhood, reduce their effectiveness by obstructing their ability to foster normalization and community integration. He also said, limiting the number of sober homes possibly will deter drug dealers and reduce the number of overdoses. In Delray Beach, homes with more than 3 unrelated residents, known as homes, group homes, or community residences, must be granted a city designation known as reasonable accommodation, which exempts them from local regulations. However, they took it a step forward and they said the city will now only consider such requests if the sober home meets FAR standards. In closing, I empathize with those in need of help and support reputable companies looking to help. I do not support Legacy as a whole, as there's too many questions about how they operate. I also feel the clustering by Legacy fundamentally alters our community, and I request that the City of Coral Springs no longer approve any such future requests and revoke current accommodations for review from this company. That is, of course, if they even submit them, because their past history shows us that they do not. So please take this as an important moment for our city. Either we stand for protecting the entire community as a whole, or in a few short years, it is my belief that Coral Springs will be dealing with the same issues as Delray Beach has. I appreciate the time, and I hope to see that we can come together and really have a great solution to this. Thank you very much.
Would you mind stating your name and address? I'm not sure if that was clear for the record.
Oh, sure, not a problem. Jonathan Korb, Northwest 39th Court.
What address on Northwest 39th Court?
9540.
Gotcha. here in Coral Springs.
Yes.
I am in
All
Coral
right,
Springs.
thank
That's
you.
correct. Yeah.
We have some homework to do. Thank you for your time.
You do. Again, I appreciate it, and I think, you know, we're more than welcome as community members to help you out. If you want to reach out, we're here for you. We'll be glad to put in the extra effort and, you know, do what we need to do to help you out also. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And I had forgotten to mention to all the future speakers as you're coming up, we may or may not reply on the fly. We tend not to. We're going to digest what you're sharing with us. The commission may or may not reflect later on during our commission comments, but if there are things for city staff to work on, do answer, they will do that at the appropriate time. So thank you for being here. And who's our next speaker, Deborah?
Mayor, our next speaker is Chris Kapish.
Great.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I have Chris on the line.
All right, welcome, Chris. Good evening.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. How are you doing?
Great, thank you.
Hello, everybody. I wanted to briefly talk about something along the lines of the previous speakers, but just a little bit different. It goes along with the issue of Coral Springs and the upkeep of it, and it's specifically.
You can't read that, can you?
About paying. I'm sorry.
Keep going, Chris.
Okay. Anyway, I'm talking about campaign signs specifically. We in Turtle Run, we have a rule that in order to put a sign up, you have to get approval from our board to do that, and it's very rare that it is. And this year, with the COVID virus that has plagued us all year long, I noticed the other day, 2 days before the election, we had code enforcement picking up campaign signs in Coral Springs and Turtle Run, and on side streets, which these candidates that have a very difficult time this year of getting their message out, getting their name out, and being recognized without with the COVID virus, you can't go door to door. There's a lot of things you can't do. You can't have meetings and rallies and stuff like that. And a lot of them just relied on social media and putting signs up. And the restaurants have put signs up all over the place. And I see the city has relaxed on that. But I know we have a code about the campaign signs, but I never saw anywhere in Coral Springs any of the signs that were up, any issues that were problematic. And I think it's only fair for the candidates to be able to get their word out. And we have an election coming up in November, and we still have the same problem with the COVID virus. And I think the city needs to relax on taking campaign signs down and maybe concentrate on some other issues that we need to do some work on. And that was my that's the purpose of my discussion here, is to have this commission consider that and take that up. And I would like to see them make a temporary relaxation on those campaign signs.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate you coming before us.
Okay. Thanks.
Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. All right, you too.
Okay, Mayor, the next person we have is Damaris Gonzalez.
All right. So as we're waiting for Damaris, just a good reminder about taking a breath, enjoying your pauses.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I have the next caller on the line. It's actually David Levin.
All right, welcome, David.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Brook. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. This is in regards to the sober homes issue and Legacy Healing Center. I am the CEO and Chief Clinical Officer at Legacy Healing Center. And what I would like to, use my time to talk about is, who we are and what we do. I have a colleague of mine who's our community outreach liaison who will speak on the zoning and some of the other concerns that were brought up. But if I can just share a little bit about who I am and why I believe in the amazing work that we do at Legacy and the thousands of people that the thousands of humans that we've served and treated and helped over the last 3 years. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a certified addictions professional, nationally and internationally, a certified mental health professional. I'm a proud resident of Coral Springs, 5840 Northwest 46th Manor, a proud father of 2 daughters, 11 and 6, that I volunteer as with the Coral Springs Youth Soccer League and coaching their teams. So I have a lot of personal interest in this issue and in this community that I take such great pride in. What I can tell you is I'm also a person in long-term recovery. And what that means is, God willing, on February 4th of 2021, I'll be clean and sober 20 years. And thank God that I was given, a second chance, not only by, society, but by the courts, by the state of Florida, having my rights restored, everything that, has been restored to me because of my recovery. And I've paid my debt to the courts, and I've paid my debt to society, personally and professionally.
David,
and if I wasn't given that second chance.
Just making sure you can see the clock. You have a minute left. If you need an extra minute, that's okay.
Thank you. And if it wasn't for that second chance, I don't think that I would have been able to help the tens of thousands of people that I've helped over the last, 20 years in my recovery. Legacy, I believe, is one of the most, if not the most, reputable behavioral health company in the Tri-County area. We're endorsed by the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. We're endorsed by the United Way, by American Airlines. We've opened our doors publicly. Every Friday night, we open our doors to a family group that's free to the community. After the tragic shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, we opened our counseling center to anyone who was affected by that, who needed
David,
services and didn't have the resources
but I'm
free of
happy
charge.
to extend it for 1 minute, Deborah. We'll go one more minute.
So in closing, what I would like to say is that, this crisis that we're in the midst of right now, the pandemic, it's not only a medical crisis. It's we've seen an uptick in substance use and other mental health disorders, and we want to be, a pillar in the community. We want to support and provide services to the community. We want to reach out to the youth in the schools and the churches. We want to, continue to provide the highest quality of care, treatment, and service that we believe we have been doing for the last 3 years to not only residents here in Coral Springs, but all over the country. And we have been hugely successful in doing that. So again, I'm going to defer to my colleague to answer any of the concerns from the previous 2 callers, and I thank you for your time.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you very much, Deborah. Appreciate that. And our next speaker?
Mayor, let me check my notes for a moment.
Sure, take your time.
Robert and I have been texting back and forth. Apparently there are 2 speakers, if not 3, that would like to yield their time to, I believe it's Mr. Jim Devine or Devine.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn it over to Robert to let us know the person that's actually going to speak.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I have the next caller on the line, Mr. Jim Devine.
All right. Welcome, Jim.
Good evening, Mayor Brooks and commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to join this evening. And I'm speaking. I work with Legacy Healing Center as well, and I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to have this forum this evening. And actually, I'm glad I was at this point in your public forum, because I'm feeling a little bit disappointed because we have some people in the community who have a misconception about Legacy Healing Center, and I want to make sure that we do a better job of communicating who and what we are. And I also want to make sure that my goal at the
May I have his name and address for the record, please? I don't have his name and address.
Mr. Devine, if you would give us your name again and your address, please.
Sure. 2960 North State Road 7, Margate, Florida 33063.
And your name just one more time.
Jim Devine.
Thank you. You can go ahead, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Did you hear the first part of my comments?
We did.
Okay. So I'd like to start off this evening by David Levin brought up a little bit about who and what we are, and we'd like to do a more thorough job of discussing that both with you, Mayor Brooks, and the commission, but we realize this probably isn't the opportunity to do that because of time limitations.
Sure.
Our bigger concern, candidly, is not the legalities that were brought up. I'm going to address those in a bullet point at the end of my comments.
And just so I'm clear, Jim, do you have
guys
one
hear
or
me?
two speakers that have yielded their time?
Two.
Okay. All right.
So I believe I have 9 minutes.
Yeah, we're going to give you another 6 minutes from now.
Okay, thank you so much.
Keep going, Jim.
Okay, thank you. So to just reiterate what I just said, I'd like the opportunity to talk with both you, Mayor Brooks, and the commission, all the commissioners, to tell a little bit more about what Legacy is. And I'd like to take this time to make sure that everybody's clear on what we're not. There were a number of things that were brought out, and I'm candidly a little curious as to how that's happened, but let me just address a few things specifically. Number one, the quote-unquote shell companies have been brought up. And while I guess we can say anything with a certain vernacular, the reality is that shell companies are not shell companies. What they are was, when Legacy started off, we decided to go in a certain financial way where we leased property from a third party. That third party set up a corporation, and they were very cryptic. They were so cryptic, Coral Springs 1 and Coral Springs 2. So if that's a shell company, that's a little interesting. As we've gone down the road, we have, through the advice of counsel, set up other entities as partners to own property. And I think we have a lot of attorneys, we have some realtors on the board. This is not unusual, and it certainly doesn't denote a connotation of a shell company. That's number one. Number two, as far as FAR is concerned, we're actually a very big supporter of FAR. We've been in the process to working with FAR to get accreditation across our system for the last 2 years. And interestingly enough, today we're calling to set up and schedule their appointments to do their final accreditation test. We've already paid for our FAR. We've already had everything approved. Unfortunately, FAR is one of the most overburdened entities in the state of Florida, and they have a long list of people that they're supposed to see, and we've been doing everything possible to get them into our facilities as soon as possible. And actually, we've been operating at FAR standards since before we even applied for our first regional accommodation. We're very proud of that. We're JACO accredited, we're beyond FAR accreditation, and we're just waiting for them understanding their guidelines. The current times have put a little strain on us as well with COVID, and so they're running behind. But FAR certification is just based upon them showing up. All the documentation's been approved, and we're looking forward to work with them. We referenced something in Parkland, a prior explanation in Parkland. I think the record needs to be just clarified real briefly, but importantly. The issue in Parkland had nothing to do with Legacy Healing Center. The issue had to do with a landlord who couldn't bring a property in compliance. And because our state licensing requires any property we're in, appropriately so, we vacated those premises. If you go to the record, instead of what some people may be saying, we vacated those properties. Actually, Parkland was very gracious with us and understood the position we were put in and bent over backwards with us to make an alternative arrangement. So I want to make sure we get that out there. The issue of crime has been brought up, and you know what? I feel personally responsible that I couldn't get out there and make sure that we had a better dialogue with the community, and I'm going to offer that right now. My goal is a simple one. We want to be good neighbors. I'll be happy to talk about legality in the town code, and we want to make sure that we are good neighbors and maintain property values. And people have cited a number of different studies. And to be blunt, we can go get studies that can contradict those. But at the end of the day, our goal is to be a good neighbor. I've done this for a little while, and my premise by doing that, if you go back to the record of the reasonable accommodations, which, by the way, I was the person who did both of them, and I was very appreciative of the way the city had treated us, and our number one concern is to be good neighbors. I have to address a couple of points, though. Crime. First off, I don't want to go on the record with this. Nobody associated with Legacy Healing Center at any of our residences has ever been arrested in Coral Springs. It's a pretty bold statement. So when people talk about crime taking hold in the neighborhood, we'll join in them in a community watch effort. We'll put our staff on that to be part of a community that's going to watch these neighborhoods, because that's our goal. But I underline again, nobody that was a member of Legacy Healing Center was ever arrested that was in one of our homes. That's number one. Number two, we have 24/7 staff in our facilities, and we're very proud of it. Our residents are not coming in and out of the facilities. They come into the facilities and go out to the facilities 3 times a day at the most, and they are not walking in and out of the facility other than to go into the backyard. There is no people coming. They do not drive themselves. There is no cars in that from residents, and we have video 24/7, 365 days a year. So while HIPAA and other guidelines prevent us from disclosing those, we can absolutely assure that we take safety very, very, very seriously. It was brought up by one of our owners, Mark Efron, and it's a little disappointing, but nonetheless, I can appreciate that. When we see headlines, a lot of people have been the victim of headlines, but nobody reads the fine print that gets printed on page 8 afterwards. Mark Efron is not a convicted felon. The issues that were brought up here this evening were charges that were entirely dismissed by the Broward County District Attorney's Office. But again, that didn't make it to this conversation this evening. It's a little disappointing for a man who's done so much for the community. I've personally seen him order resources during COVID to go out and provide masks when the police departments, the fire departments could not have any of those, and they were running short on them. Mark went out and made sure that we found them and donated them to every municipality we could around here. That's on the record. When people were in trouble during the tragedy in Parkland a few years ago, we allowed and we made absolute concessions to make sure that anybody who wanted to could reach out and have counseling. That was Mark Efron. So it's a little disappointing that people would try and portray somebody as something totally opposite than what they are. It was mentioned earlier about Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office has a long relationship with Legacy Healing Center, and we're a trusted partner. So I had to refute some of those things because I think I had an obligation to.
Understood. As you can see, Deborah is showing us that the time is up, Jim. We do appreciate you being here.
Actually,
happy to have extended the time for the additional speakers. But we do need to move on in the program, in the commission meeting. We've got a tight agenda, and by all means, all of us have office hours and are available to chat. My cell phone is 494-9872. I have office hours on Friday. Again, we don't typically respond on the heels of a speaker. If you'd like to stick around or watch us streaming, we have commission comments towards the end of the meeting. But Jim, thank you for being here, and have a good evening. Deborah,
thank you.
We have another speaker. You're welcome.
Mayor, the 2 other speakers I had, I believe, were related to the last speaker. We do not have anyone outside to speak. And unless Robert has someone that called in on our line, I am finished with signed speakers.
Okay. Deborah, as always, you're doing a wonderful job. So thank you very much.
There's a great team behind me. Thank you.
There really is. There really is. So thank you, everybody, for coming this evening and being heard. And thank you for those that deferred your time and to help us save some time. Commissioner Sarah, did you have your hand up?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want, now that public comments are closed, I just wanted to make a comment and then ask
They are
a question.
closed. Public comment is closed. Official.
I just, obviously, if we had 28 residents that were ready to speak on this and deferred to 2, I know that in our briefings, we all have talked briefly with staff on the residential concerns that were brought forward. And then the 2 speakers with Legacy, it sounds to me like they have some information that they want to share or they want to communicate. I guess the big thing for me is I am a resident of the Hills, and this is something that this community is feeling very strongly about. And I expressed that in the briefing on Monday. At this time, I'd just like to ask our city attorney, Mr. Hearn, if there's any historical perspective you could give to this, or just for lack of a better word, update on where we are and how maybe we can bridge gap and communicate effectively to our residential group that we're ready to speak tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner. Go ahead, JJ.
Thank you. So the city's zoning laws do not allow for recovering residents to operate in a residential zoning district. However, the city is preempted by federal law from preventing them in certain circumstances. The Federal Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disability Act requires government agencies to make reasonable accommodations to afford individuals with disability equal opportunity to use and enjoy housing. And these protections have been ruled to extend to recovery type entities. And I think Ms. Perez and Mr. Korb correctly talked about what that is, and what a municipality can deny this if it causes an undue financial or administrative burden, or if it fundamentally affects the city's zoning scheme. So Legacy right now has 2 that have been approved by our special magistrate that found that it's a reasonable accommodation to allow those 2. To the extent that there are issues there, and I've heard that there may be illegal activity, but then I've heard from Mr. Levin and Mr. Devine that is not the case. But if there was, we would definitely address that. If they are not in compliance with that order, including the Florida Association of Recovery Residents is what that FAR is that people talk about. And like the city of Delray, it doesn't allow it unless there's a reasonable accommodation found. And if so, FAR regulations are in place. That is how those 2 have been approved. But understanding that no one knew this until very, very recently, not even a week ago, probably. If there is going to be a cluster there, then you got to look at how it's going to affect the zoning scheme. So what we have done historically, we actually met then Mayor Skip Campbell, was very interested in this, and we met with Kristen Jacobs, who sponsored us to be able to, we drafted a bill that she sponsored, and shortly after the death of Skip Campbell, it did get a lot of traction in the state legislature, and was just one committee, was in a committee, and we thought it might come out to go ahead and allow us to have some more regulations. But that bill has not passed. It has remained in our lobbyist file of what we actively are pursuing. We continue to actively pursue it. I think that tonight actually has been very helpful because I think Ms. Perez and Mr. Korb and that community has given us information that we don't know about, didn't know about, but we need to get together with them. Legacy has offered to get together. We need to have these conversations, and to the extent that there is a 3rd one, that is news to us, but there isn't a 3rd one there that's allowed, and we would look at that at the point of, is this affecting the zoning scheme? And to the extent the first 2 are not in compliance, that's something we'd have to look at as well. Again, this all goes to a special magistrate. So I think tonight was good to get the interested people together from both sides. I'm glad to see that there's a response from Legacy Healing. And now that we know those people, I asked Deborah, we do have the phone numbers. I'm sure the city manager and staff, and we'll participate with them. We'll get together and see how we move forward here. So
Great.
that helps.
Thank you very much, John. Commissioner
Yep.
Vignola. Thank you, Commissioner Sarah.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to know if maybe staff could put together a little package on how many of these homes are like this throughout the city of Coral Springs, just for information purposes. And maybe even on a map so we know in different areas where there's any clusters of these, and maybe any information we have on calls for service at these types of facilities, whether it be code calls, police calls, fire calls, all those things. So we kind of have just a better understanding of what the impact is on the community.
Sounds good to me, Commissioner. I think that'll be helpful. And really, I have so much respect that so many people could get together and decide, you know what, let me yield my time and be that respectful of our meeting, and not have to have it be another hour and a half. So thank you to all of you who yielded your time. Anything further from the commission before we hop on to the next item? All right, thank you, Commissioner Sarah. So our next item is our first public hearing item. It's regarding ordinance 2020-114. It's first reading, repealing 8% interest on liens. John, I'll let you take it away. I'm going to step aside for a moment.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, amending Section 8-22.1 of the Code of the City of Coral Springs and amending 2218 of the Land Development Code, both entitled liens, in order to repeal those parts of the code which impose interest on liens, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for an effective date. This request to hold a public hearing, approve first reading, and set second reading. And I believe either Ms. Foster or Ms. Clark are going to speak about this.
We have just a quick overview on it.
I'm getting there. I apologize.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, I have this a quick slide presentation, and then can answer any questions. So let me just start sharing my screen. Make sure, can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so great. So this is ordinance 2020-114. It pertains to our liens. And as we know, this liens are and fines are a constant conversation within our community. I know a lot of you have heard and spoken to people about this. Code compliance generally holds we have about 5,000 new cases annually, and about 300 are carried over from previous years, which means we're trying to work with people who are trying to do the right thing, and we give them plenty of time. The good news is we have about a 79% compliance rate over the past 5 years. And you'll hear from our survey companies that this is remarkable among most cities nationwide. We did some research. Again, this has come up with some strategic planning. We researched 17 jurisdictions around the county, of course, those that are recently adjacent to us, and then those throughout the county and some up in Palm Beach County who we benchmark with. We did 16 cities in one county. We looked at general practices, lien and fine amounts. And then one thing that really stuck out was interest. We noticed that only 4 other cities collected interest. And in your backup is that comparison that we did in that research over the last year. So typically the fine amount for Coral Springs for a violation is typically about $100. The maximum fines according to state statute can be $1,000, $5,000, or $15,000. Depending if it's irreversible in nature, repeat violations. For us, if we typically have a repeat violation, it is up to the magistrate, and he will typically do a $250 to $500 per day for repeat violations, depending on the circumstances for each case. But what we're recommending is that there be no change to our fines at this point. For the interest on fines, which was very interesting. And when we do our reduction of fines, when we talk about interest and we tell them it's 8%, of course, unanimously people say, oh my goodness, I wish I could get 8%. So after a lien is filed and recorded with Broward County, our code requires that we collect 8% interest. Coconut, and there was only 3 other cities besides ourselves who collected that. So we collect 8%, Coconut Creek does 12%, as does Davie. And then Wellington does a 12% based on nuisance cases. So our recommendation is that we remove the 8% interest from fines in the Land Development Code and the Municipal Code. We approved first reading ordinance 2020-114 related to the 8% interest, amending sections 8-22.1 of the Code of Ordinances and section 2218 of the Land Development Code, and set a second reading for September 2nd, 2020.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Mayor, we just have to open up to the public, first reading.
Okay. Sorry about that. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to be heard?
I do not have any speakers for this item.
We'll give them another 30 seconds just in case. In the meanwhile, Rochelle Abramowitz was one of the recipients of item number 10 under consent. And she said she's having trouble getting on, so maybe somebody can help Rochelle. I shared with Rochelle Luam's email. So if Luam, if you're on, if you can possibly help her, that would be great. Anyone give us a call during the 35 seconds? All right, public hearing is now closed. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank
Any
you.
questions? Motion?
To approve.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
All right. As I stated in my briefing, thank you for, I'm gonna try to make this quick because I got the baby. Thank you for, hearing our strategic plan and working on this. As I understood this going forward, it's not retroactive. I guess for me, I was just much more concerned about emergency situations or issues where people weren't aware of their liens ballooning to such a certain amount that it's now harming their ability to do something, with other property or their property or something like that. I think, since I've been here, I've run into a number of cross lien situations, which have been extremely problematic. And so I hope that we will continue to address those going forward in the future. I guess one of the questions I had, I was looking at the issues to ask for lien reduction. I saw there was a $300 application fee. I guess if people are asking for a lien reduction, I don't want to say that they're having financial issues, but and maybe $300, is not a large sum of money, at least for the city. But I'm curious about, how people are applying, that they have to do an application to apply to ask for their liens to be reduced. Has that always been in practice? Has that always been there? Have there been any situation where people, have made that, it's been an issue for them? So that, I guess that's my first question. And then just the second one is, I want to make sure that there's like a special hardship exception in there as well, or something like that. I guess for the virtual, for our virtual meeting so far, I think I saw that there was only for safety and safety and health issues when it comes to magistrate hearings or virtual magistrate hearings. But I'm hoping that we're allowing, special hardship exceptions as well.
So those are excellent questions. We have done cost studies for the application fee, and they are the actual to go through these cases is quite extensive. We work closely with the attorney's office, and we've worked through budget to analyze that $300. I'd hate to go for another cost analysis because the time spent on those is a lot. Just the attorney's review on those is quite lengthy. So it's been in place for quite a while. Most of the cities do charge an application fee. And the good thing after benchmarking with our different special magistrates and not changing our code is we do have a section about hardships. And the positive thing is that it specifically states in our Land Development Code section 192 that is there a hardship that existed or currently exists when the lien or fine was imposed. So it takes into account when it was imposed, as well as what's currently happening in their current situation. And that could happen, let's just take you for an example. If you had a lien on your property, let's say 5 years ago, and you were working and everything was fantastic, and then all of a sudden something happened. You had a death in your family. You were laid off from your job, and now you need to sell your property. this allows the city as well as the magistrate to take into that hardship. It also allows them to speak to the magistrate, because it's really hard sometimes for the applicant to write down what their hardship is. You know, it's personal, they're embarrassed, and it really comes out when it's face to face. Our magistrates are very compassionate, and it's not a straight reduction. Everything is not a clear-cut thing. Currently, we are doing health and safety. However, we are doing reduction cases every single week. We have a case tomorrow, and I know former Commissioner Lou Simiglia is not on the commission anymore, but specifically the property we're hearing tomorrow had a hardship of a veteran who was living in the house and who was losing his house. And so some of the liens were placed on him. So we're able to present that to the magistrate for consideration on those different types of hardships. And through our analysis, we noticed that a lot of the communities don't have that option. So we really want to keep that option and feel it really works well for the community, because we do have hardships that people have and presently have and previously had. So I hope that answered your question.
I'm sure it was a great answer. I got kicked off for 2 seconds.
I'm sorry.
No, and I'm not going to actually repeat.
That's okay. We do address hardships, though. We have a large section in our code that addresses hardships, and we're hearing cases all the time.
I think what I meant is for right now during our.
So we are hearing cases every single week. We're hearing reductions.
Because I saw that it only said that there was only going to be special hearings or magistrate hearings for issues of safety and health, such as overgrown grass and, things of that nature. So I want to make sure that, we were still hearing situations where it was a special type of hardship. So thank you.
Yeah, so we are hearing all regular cases. We're hearing cases, and we're doing reduction of fine, and we prioritize those based on pending transactions. So if you have a pending transaction, you go before someone who has no pending transaction and doesn't need to see the magistrate at this point. But again, every single week we're hearing at least one. Tomorrow we have 4 reductions.
Gotcha. Good to hear. Yeah. So along those same lines, Frank, I'm looking, because that's kind of one of my most important things I continue to be interested in, is a true lien resolution program that may have more of an understanding, at least by me. So if somebody came, hey, what is your policy? I'm not aware that we have necessarily a set policy to resolve liens, and maybe that's hard to really have one. I know way back when Mike was a city manager and Horace was an assistant, there was something being worked on, but that's something I'm very interested in us having, when the time is right. And my guess sooner than later would be great, but I'm not sure about our resources.
Yeah, Mayor, we have a comprehensive lien practice in place, and during your next briefing, we'll go over that with you, so you can ask any questions you need to ask.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
Thank you, Jackie. So any further questions? And I believe we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. Thank you, Jackie. Next is ordinance 2020-115, first reading, AZRC duties.
This is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, amending Chapter 1, Article 4, Section 161 of the Land Development Code of the City of Coral Springs, entitled Administrative Zoning Review Committee Duties and Procedures, and Chapter 25, Article 3, Section 250197 of the Land Development Code of the City of Coral Springs, entitled Strategic Transportation Evaluation Plans, in order to expand the duties of the Administrative Zoning Review Committee, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for an effective date. Mayor's request to hold public hearing, approve first reading, and set second reading for September 2nd.
Great.
Ms. Clark is here, I believe. I mean, Ms. Krolik.
Close enough.
Hi,
Good evening, everyone. Hi. I do have a couple slides first. I'm going to go ahead and.
Great.
everybody see that?
Remember, you're on camera when the slides are going on.
So this item before you this evening, when our staff started teleworking because of COVID, one of their tasks was to start looking at the code. We're always looking for ways that we can bring our code more up to speed with trends that are going on, as well as just ways of improving the way we do business. Back in 2013, as we came out of the recession, we created a pilot program to help expedite projects that needed special exceptions or maybe conditional uses for similar types of businesses that were already established. And it became the Administrative Zoning Review Committee in 2016. And really the job of this committee is to consider items that are smaller in nature, things such as projects that meet within 33% of their requirements for special exceptions, things like master parking exceptions up to 10%, sign variances for 10%, amendments to master sign programs. So you can see these are smaller type projects that are coming through. So to take what typically would be a 90-day process and take it down to about a 30-day process has really helped our businesses in that sense, help them to get open a little sooner. And since 2013, when the committee was created, 46 projects have gone to one variation of this committee or another. And the cost is also reduced as well, since there is a little bit less work involved and less advertising involved. So we've saved about $20,000 for our businesses as well in application fees by bringing them to the AZRC instead of making them go through the full process for some of their requests. And when you look at the list that's attached, it's been great because it really has actually benefited a lot of our smaller businesses as well. So to them, that's real savings. So the item before you this evening is just to modify the duties of AZRC a tad, in that we're recommending sign variances up to 25% could be considered by the committee, as well as allowing them to consider businesses to use up to 10% of their master parking spaces for outdoor seating and dining. This is allowed under one of our existing emergency orders for COVID, since a lot of the restaurants can't go to their full occupancy right now. So we have been allowing them, while not many have utilized it yet. I think a lot of that has to do with it being quite hot outside and being summertime. I think we'll see a lot more businesses starting to move outdoors if we're still where we are, come fall and later into the winter. And the 10% matches up with that master parking exception I just mentioned, as well as we thought it was kind of a good number to start with, so that other businesses nearby would know that they weren't taking up, a whole big row of spaces or anything like that. And we've been working with the chamber right along with this. So it's definitely a starting point to see how this works. It's definitely a trend we're seeing throughout the nation. So we hope it's going to be really utilized by a lot of our restaurants. And then from there, we're also recommending that the committee consider strategic transportation evaluation plans. These are just proportionate share for roadway improvements should they be needed for new development in the corporate park. Over the last year, you've seen 6 of these. And so this, again, is just one more step to help businesses move a little bit faster to get opened up. So with that, we're recommending approval of ordinance 2020-115. And should it be approved this evening, that you set second and final reading for September 2nd. I'm here for any questions.
Great. Any questions of Julie? This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to be heard?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
when the public's done, I guess.
Okay, we'll give them another 10 seconds to give us a ring.
There, I will have a speaker for the next item, but for
Okay,
this
but
one,
not
we
for
do
this
not.
one.
We do
Okay.
not.
All right, good to know. So our public hearing item is closed. Our public hearing is closed. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I had a question during the briefing on this and how we can assist the local businesses in getting the word out for the additional parking from the master parking area. And I just wanted to point out to all of us that, it is an application process, but staff is encouraging.
Great. Okay, good to know. Commissioner Vignola.
So on the 10% master parking outdoor dining, I'm hoping that this is going to be temporary.
Well, they're temporary with the emergency order right now. This will allow them to keep it on a more permanent basis.
So my concern with that specifically is in some of the master parking areas where parking is tight, if that is going ahead and that is approved, and you're not adding more people once the restaurants are back filled up and everything's back to normal. When the restaurants are more filled up, now they're going to take 10% of their parking, which will also bring in more people. And in areas where there are businesses that share that master parking, this can have a pretty detrimental effect, not only on the businesses that are existing there, but also for their value when they go to sell down the road. If you look at maybe there's a certain type of wings place people frequent in the city that has a busy parking lot with a couple restaurants in that area, what would this do to that type of situation? So that is a huge concern for me. I would be okay with it on a temporary basis because of the fact that restaurants, one, are hurting and eating outdoors is I feel, safer. And you're not having as many people there. But in the long term, that is a huge concern of mine. And the other thing with the 25% change with signs, not having it coming in front of the commission, Julia, I think you said there was 46 businesses that have gone through this process already and saved over or about $20,000 total. Less than $500 for a business. And anyone who's ever operated the business, when you look at those types of expenses, that's not a lot of money. And I think if we're going to go ahead and we're going to change 25% of sign code to be able to go over administratively and not go through the process and explain to the commission why they want to go past our code. If the commission feels like they want to go ahead and increase signage and make it bigger, then I think the commission just go ahead and do that. But I think 25% is way above and beyond what is there. And I think there's an expectation when you come to Coral Springs, the look and feel of the community is a big reason why many of us choose to live here. So those are my concerns with this item.
All right, Larry, thanks for sharing that with everybody. Anybody else have any questions for Julie before we entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor, one more. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Regarding Commissioner Vignola's concerns regarding signage, and signage has always been a point of contention for the business community. I'll relate to you a story that I picked up this week in visiting a local business, and that's Kilwin's Danny Bruck. He's been there for 18 years. And because of the construction in the parking lot, he has signs, big banners hanging on the fence for where the construction is for Trader Joe's. He got phone calls that said, "When are you opening?" And he's like, "What? I've been here 18 years." And they said, "I just saw your sign hanging on the fence." So yes, sometimes I think our signs could be a little bit more generous so that people can be seen. Because with our wonderful tree canopy, it is difficult to see the businesses from the road. So I just want to relate that story.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Larry, your turn. We'll do a little bit of this.
Mayor, when you were mayor last time, and you guys pushed forward some of the sign changes before, and the indexing signs and those things, I felt like it was done in a nice, clean way that kind of met everywhere in the middle. I know you work with the Chamber of Commerce to make that happen. I just feel like go to other areas, go to other cities. When signs are everywhere, they all get buried in each other. If everyone's got big signs, you don't stick out any more than anywhere else. Whereas I think, like the Vice Mayor was saying about the Kilwin sign, I think that's an area where there's some construction, there's a fence there, and that draws your attention naturally to it because you want to know what's going in that place. I just think, it's something that we have to be very cognizant of. We do want to be business friendly. However, I think, there's a big reason why many of us choose to live here. And I think the look of the city is a huge factor in that decision.
Gotcha. Commissioner Simmons, did you want to share?
Yeah. For me, since I've been here, I've been very clear and candid about the need for us to work on our signage issues when it comes to allowing businesses to, number one, show off their business, but also, make it more visible for people to see their signs and businesses for people to see their signs. I don't think this is an attempt for us to get to a point where signs are going to be on top of each other and it look cluttered and look disgusting. I think we have a reputation that everyone in the city loves to do things a certain way and for things to look a certain way. And I don't think this will impinge on that or impugn on that at all. So, for me, I just think this is us doing what we need to do to make sure that our signs are benefiting the many businesses that we have here in this city.
With that, Commissioner Simmons, would you like to be the movant?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Yes, sir.
Sure, and then me.
I would ask with the motion if we can change it from 25% down to a little bit lesser to that. We already allowed 10, maybe go down to 20%. And I also think that the 10% master parking should be a temporary basis. Let's see how it goes. And I think through the pandemic, while there's an emergency order, I think that would be the way to go. And then it's something we can look at on a case-by-case basis, or maybe you guys try a pilot program later on. But I hate to go ahead and push that forward now that have some really adverse effects on our businesses throughout the community. I think that has a potential to really negatively affect a lot of our existing businesses that have been loyal and put their money right here in Coral Springs.
So it looks like Commissioner Simmons is in thought. While you're thinking, I do have a question for you, Julie. And my question is, why 10% as opposed to 0% or 20%?
Well, we went with 10% first because the master parking exceptions for that amount already go to this committee. But then also we thought it would be a number that would be low enough that would accommodate enough spaces to make enough of an outdoor area to make it worth it for the restaurants, as well as not being a number too high that may cause even more concern for other nearby businesses. We do notifications when these go out, so adjacent owners would be notified as well and would have opportunity to come out and speak for or against as well.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work you do all the time, Julie.
Glad to help.
I tell you enough thanks.
This is my staff. This one wasn't me, so I'm glad to bring this forward on behalf of them.
Wonderful. Thank you. So Commissioner Simmons, you're the movant. Go ahead.
Commissioner, so I want to make sure I understand. You think by voting for this as is, we will be harming established businesses by doing what exactly?
So I helped run a business here in town for many years. And when you talk about the master parking area, those spots in front of your business that are part of the master parking, sometimes you own that property, but they're technically considered master parking. You can't tell people you can't park there or whatever. So sometimes it gets a little hectic with different businesses arguing over spaces, whether you have a business there that brings in way too much parking or whatever. And I'll give you an example. There is a restaurant that opened up next to an established wings eatery in Coral Springs, and there was a lot of back and forth over the shared parking there along Sample Road. If you were to go ahead in that specific area and allow 10%, if there's 3 restaurants that I know of within a stone's throw of each other, they all went ahead and did shared parking out over there. And sometimes when you go to those businesses, there is no place to park already because, restaurants and the amount of people that come into those restaurants. So my concern is when you allow that extra there, you're going to be able to bring in after the pandemic when restaurants are at full capacity and everything's rocking and rolling, you will have 10% more business being brought in, let's say, right? And you're going to bring in more cars and have less parking. And that's a concern. So I would ask that if you guys move forward that let's try this temporarily right now for to help out relief the restaurants and allow more capacity and help out. And I think this is a great idea in doing it that way and help out the restaurant. They can take in more customers and things. I know there's been conversations around the county about how restaurants are struggling and trying to make it work. I just think that temporarily would be the way to go with this. And maybe you guys decide down the road when this is over that you do a pilot program to try it out on a case-by-case basis or whatever. But I'm afraid of making a decision like this is going to go ahead and hurt the adjacent businesses. When I drive by, and there are businesses I'll go to, and if there's no parking and I got the kids, especially when the kids were little, I'm not getting out and going into their business. So if we have parking lots now that are overflowed and it's nowhere to get a parking lot, well, I'm going to drive on and go somewhere else. And I think that's something that we really need to be cognizant of and how this will affect our existing businesses. So the signage thing, I would ask for it to be lowered a little bit. That's not the end of the world to me as much as this parking thing, because operating a business with a master parking area, parking is kind of a big heated topic amongst local business owners. And so doing a permanent thing like that, to me, could be catastrophic to some businesses.
Frank, I have a question for you, and I'll come back to you, Commissioner Simmons, in a moment. The master parking spaces, who owns them?
The city.
Everyone, everywhere?
Susie, I would ask for you to clarify the exact ones, if you could.
Yes, the city owns the ones along Sample Road. We don't, they're private along University and along Wiles Road. So the city just has the Sample Road corridor with that.
All the way from Woodside to Coral Springs Drive.
Yes.
Great. That's what I thought. Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Actually, from Rock Island. I'm sorry, from Rock Island.
Right. That plaza there. Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you, Susie. Commissioner Simmons, you had your hand up.
I guess Julie, when we say 10% of master parking, it says consideration of utilization of up to 10% of master parking spaces for outdoor seating, dining. Is that per, and you may have explained this and I apologize. Again, I had the baby. I'm gonna keep using that excuse until she's old enough to talk. Is that per establishment or area? Like how is the 10% divvied up?
Sure, and I still use that excuse, and she's 5, so I get it. I'd say it would be per establishment, yes. So in for instance, you know, in the example Commissioner Vignol was,
well, the
using,
Wings Eatery place, and then the place next to them that continue to have friction.
Correct. Let's say that particular Wings place requires 60 spaces. I'm looking at our parking files really quickly here, so they would be able to use up to 6. Whereas the establishment next door, they have I believe it was 23 existing parking spaces, so they'd be able to use 2 spaces.
Gotcha.
So they would only be able to use 2 spaces per outdoor, and that's it. That's maximum for that place.
Correct, as it's recommended right now. Correct.
And what about Runyon's on the street as well?
Well, yeah, and then Runyon's has how many?
I don't know how many they have offhand. Give me one second.
Right, Ginger, you start going through the list and you get that up. It's an area.
You guys are making me hungry. You're making me hungry.
I know. We need to, you know, do our business because I need to watch some primetime television tonight.
Runyon has 50 spaces.
Is there a way with our master parking to create a shared space, and not shared in a way that it's obviously no one's violating, you know, the social distance requirements, things of that nature, but is there a way so that we can create something that's, since we own it, it's not necessarily by business, but it's the entire kind of area in a way that each business can kind of agree to that being maybe their outdoor area? I don't know if, you know, and I guess it could be more of a community thing. I think, you know, if a business chooses not to have their people sit there, then fine. But is there a way that we could do that? So maybe it's not necessarily each business being viewed as them having their parking taken away, but more of a community thing. Is that something that we could explore?
Definitely. And you might remember, I think it was about 2 years ago, the CRA was looking at improving the master parking areas within the downtown. And we haven't that, but yeah. Right. Well, and I know there was costs involved with that and everything, but there were a couple different options with that did include just what you're talking about, kind of these pod areas that could be used for anyone to kind of come and go and maybe have seating out there and things like that. And one of the concerns that was raised by the businesses around was that it was taking up too many, because I think at one point maybe one of the options even had up to 40% or something like that of the master parking being used. So we get that was too high for sure. To start with, you know.
So this right here, as I read it, it says because of COVID, this is something we're doing just for now for COVID, but are we looking for this to be something that's permanent?
Yes, right now it's included within one of the emergency orders on a temporary basis. This would allow them to continue that once the emergency order is over with.
So when we say parking, they can put tables and chairs within those parking spots, but it doesn't have to look like anything. They could just have tables and chairs out there.
Correct. I mean, I think we'd want it to, you know, have some kind of aesthetic look to it, everything looking nice together. Maybe they put out temporary planters or something like that to help, you know, with safety and all of that too. But not as far as like wiping away the spaces and all of that too.
I guess as we kind of talk through it more, you know, the people speed through those areas in a way that you know, they're not paying attention. That's why maybe if there is a kind of a business partnership, I guess, or a joint partnership with the city as far as having that dedicated shared space, maybe that'll work better. I don't, you know, I'm here for this. I want to make sure the variances are good because I know how I feel about the sign variances. But as we kind of talk through the parking thing, I think we maybe need to explore that shared spot. Maybe that'll help us in the future with getting that pod kind of thing going if we get all the businesses to buy into it. And I think we need to have those conversations with the business community, with those business owners, because right now they're all, you know, they're kind of upset. And so if we can kind of show them some goodwill that we're working on different things and trying to, you know, make sure that they can have more seating and outdoor usage or something like that during everything that's going on, I think that could help a little bit take away what some of their angst. So I guess I'll amend my motion. I don't know if this is possible, John, so you're gonna have to help me out with this. This is what you get paid for. I move to approve, I guess, I move to approve the, I don't know what we're calling this, the order.
Are you looking to approve the other items, but not the
Yes.
parking right now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Not the parking at all, or only the parking temporarily?
Well, right now we have it in our emergency order, so you won't need to do anything right now to keep that.
Understood.
Okay, so if I understand it, you're looking to amend your motion to count the sign variances up to 25% and streamline the process for the step, and not to move forward with the 10% at this time for master parking. It's already in the emergency order. If you're looking to keep it, it's in there.
Oh, so it's already in the emergency order. So I mean, I guess on a temporary status, yeah, but I guess I would like for us to go forward, maybe really use this opportunity, as I said in the document, as a way to kind of start exploring some of those things that we actually want as a city with our business community when it comes to those, you know, outdoor eating spaces you know, within the master parking area.
Commissioner Simmons, if I may, because I definitely hear your intent to be as business friendly as possible. And, you know, where we are currently, we have an opportunity to improve. So, so that I'm clear, you're good with where we are currently with the emergency order with the up to the 10%. And I think, Julie, your intent with this is, you know, 10% as opposed to 20. Let's see how it goes, hoping that it goes well. But right now we're under a temporary order anyhow. So not necessarily moving this forward on a permanent basis doesn't impact any of the businesses' opportunities currently. So now that I'm speaking out loud, am I understanding that correctly, John?
Yes. Right now, if you don't move this forward, we still have emergency order, which allows this 10% currently.
Gotcha.
We're covered until we drop the state of emergency.
Gotcha. Commissioner Vignola, and back to you, Commissioner Simmons.
Commissioner Simmons, basically what I would ask for in the parking thing is to look at it and do something where once everything is back up and running, then I would hope you guys would try this out on a temporary basis before anybody goes ahead and builds in any permanent structures or whatever for parking like that. And let's see how it affects the areas that these businesses are and these restaurants are, and see how it affects them first once things come back in, because it'd be really hard to reverse it once that moves forward. And since you're in such a giving mood, Commissioner Simmons, we can any possible way bring down that sign variance down to somewhere closer around 20%. I would appreciate it as a friendly amendment.
No, you don't get your I'm leaving the commission gift yet. You don't get that.
Maybe I'd be willing to babysit for your commission meetings after I'm off the commission or something. Who knows? Don, obviously that's a joke. Don't take that.
I'm cool with all the temporary stuff. I guess for me, as we were talking through it, I think this is a good opportunity to explore, as it's stated in the document, that opportunity to have that some of those shared outdoor eating spaces. You know, so I guess maybe that kind of came out as a side thing or something like that. But as it stands right now, I think temporary is definitely the way to go. And in the future exploring maybe having that real dedicated kind of shared space that we were talking about, before. And maybe that's kind of what's in my head. So I guess my motion is whatever the heck I made it 2 seconds ago.
So John, you want to restate that so it's clear for the possible seconder of the motion?
Yes. So Commissioner Simmons is asking to move forward with ordinance 2020-115, including the sign variances up to 25% and streamline the process for the strategic transportation evaluation plan, but not to move forward with the utilization of 10% of the master parking spaces for outdoor seating. Reason being is it's already in the emergency order was the reasoning he gave.
Did he get you clearly, Commissioner Simmons?
So businesses are still going to be able to do the 10%, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes.
All right, Vice Mayor, can you
Yes,
second
I
that?
have a question. No, I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm okay with supporting Commissioner Vignola's motion about the parking and the temporary and all that, but I still think 25% for the signage is good.
And that's what we
That is
kept
the
it.
motion.
That's what it's kept.
We did,
That is the
okay.
motion.
Okay, thank you.
Do you second that
We're
amended?
seconding that motion.
Right.
Okay.
Deborah, did you get all that?
So discussion, go ahead, Commissioner.
One thing that we don't know when the emergency order is going to be lifted. However, I would anticipate it being lifted probably before the end of the pandemic, before restaurants fully bounce back. Frank, would you agree with that statement?
Well, I think the emergency order will get lifted. Restate your question. I'm sorry.
What I'm basically asking is, would you anticipate the emergency orders getting the declaration of emergency being lifted before the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, probably before restaurants are back up and running at peak capacity?
I think when the emergency order is lifted, restaurants will be able to operate at their design capacity, meaning the restrictions will be lifted at the same time. So I think it'll be pretty close in nature.
Okay. My concern with it is, I think a lot of people might be a little more hesitant to go out to eat as often. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to, Commissioner Simmons, have this where it goes out to try this for a year, even past, and let's just see how it goes. But John, I see you're looking a little confused. What I'm saying is, I'd like to see kind of how it works if we're doing it on a temporary basis, how it affects the businesses in the area once everything is back up and running 100%. Not just the declaration of emergency being over. I'm saying once the pandemic's over and businesses are rocking and rolling, and it could end up being a year from now. It could be 6 months from now.
I would say let's workshop it, the particulars. Let's workshop the particulars. And
we have time to do that. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I'll get it on a workshop coming up shortly if that's the commission's desire.
Sounds good. And I think we're about to see it. We're going to pass this tonight. Looks that way. For me, signage, we went through 3 rounds of signage reform when I was mayor the first time, how many times ago? I didn't think it was enough then, so having some more now. I want people to see the gas signs. I want people to see Kilwins. I want people to see Runyons. Outback, was very fortunate because they changed the landscaping. So as you're heading north on University, you see Outback on the other side. So our businesses need the support, and it's not just about the businesses. It's not just about the businesses. It's about our consumers being able to see what businesses they have, know about them, and diversify our tax base. So I think it goes well beyond servicing the business owners. It services our entire community of 130,000 people. So Julie, I'm very glad that you and your team brought this forward to us. I'm very glad that we're supporting the businesses. Hey, our parking spaces, we could charge for in Sample. So we're allowing that, to go without a charge, is my understanding, at least on this temporary basis with the emergency order and with the possible intention. When I was talking to staff earlier today, I was thinking, how about 20%? 20% gives a little bit more room, and why not try that? And I defer to staff. I want to go a little bit slower. 10% is okay. And that's where we're at. So I'm in favor of the motion. Any further discussion?
Just real quick, on the workshop, Frank, it doesn't have to be anytime soon. Whenever you guys feel like, we're going to be getting out of this, it could be well after I'm off the commission, that's fine. I don't want you to feel like you guys stuff it on a workshop now, because I don't anticipate that happening anytime soon. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Great. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. Thank you for the discussion. We are on item number
6.
I'm sorry, ordinance 2020-117, first reading, parking regulations.
This is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, amending Chapter 25, Article 8, Sections 250-811, 250-816 of the Land Development Code of the City of Coral Springs to update regulations related to off-street parking requirements, providing for conflicts, providing for servability, providing for codification, providing for an effective date, request to hold public hearing, approve at first reading, set second reading, and I do know after Ms. Crowley gives her presentation, we do have someone for the public hearing, Mayor.
Great, thanks for the reminder on that.
Yep.
All right, Julie.
Is it showing? Are we good?
Not showing you.
I don't see it yet
No?
on my
Okay.
screen, Julie.
Sorry, give me one sec. Hit share. That would help. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, so this ordinance includes two parts relating to parking. Again, this was us looking at the code and seeing what we can improve upon our existing requirements. Right before COVID started, we were working with some of the bigger boxes like Target and Walmart on incorporating the curbside takeaway like they have right now. Some of them were looking to expand, rebrand it, add more, things like that. So as COVID has changed everything we're working on right now, a lot of the smaller businesses have also come forward wanting to do different types of curbside takeaway. So you can see here's just some examples of what we have around town. A lot of them are temporary in nature right now. You can see they're just kind of putting up signage just to kind of test it out and see how it's working for them through COVID, while others like Target here on the left have incorporated much more on a much more permanent basis into their parking. Our code right now allows for what it just says is time limited parking for customers, and the maximum number of spaces that it allows a business to utilize is 7. And it's also based on the frontage of the property instead of relating to the businesses or the property itself or the building itself. So staff, we looked at the number of spaces that we thought would be appropriate based on the size of the building instead, all the way from 4 spaces, which would be typical of something like Outback, like we spoke about a minute ago. McDonald's, they tend to have 4 spaces and they would fit within that range there. All the way up to, for properties more 100,000 square feet or more, could have up to 24 spaces that would be dedicated for curbside pickup, takeout, whichever one they would like to call it. And just to give you an example of how that might be utilized, you're looking at the Walk on the north side, that building is about 115,000 square feet. And they have almost 600 spaces out there. So while you hear 24, it sounds like a lot by itself, but when you put it in relationship to the number of spaces that a property of that size would have overall, we think it's an appropriate number. We also like to take a look every once in a while at the number of off-street parking spaces that are required for our businesses. We work with the city's traffic consultant, as well as looking at the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or the ITE manual, as well as parking studies we receive from applications that come forward. We are recommending the reduction of a number of parking requirements. You can see here on the screen, it's also included in the ordinance in your backup. Some of them are very little, but it can make a big difference for a new business that's going in. Sometimes they're just short a space or two, and we really try and work with them to figure out how things might work. A few of these that we do have on here, you can see that are more substantial, such as the self-storage. The last few self-storage facilities that came before you may remember had special exceptions for their number of parking spaces. So in working with people within the industry there and looking at our past applications, we think this number is much more appropriate. Additionally, childcare centers is a similar thing. I think our code requirement is pretty high right now, considering the number of come in and drop off and leave. It's not like at a traditional school, you have so many teachers coming and staying all day. So we're recommending those changes to the non-residential spaces. And then we're tweaking or recommending to tweak the multiple family spaces just a little bit. Again, it's not much, but it can make a difference for a property, especially some of our smaller ones that we have left that are being redeveloped. We think these will be much more appropriate. We decided to leave the single family numbers alone right now because we think that those are appropriate from the number of people per household we have within the city right now. And these, while they wouldn't have alleviated completely some of the special exceptions you may have seen or getting ready to see that'll be coming before you soon, it would reduce the amount that they would be required for the overall site, bringing it closer to what the code requires as well. So with that, we're recommending approval of ordinance 2020-117 and that you set second reading for September 2nd.
Great, thank you very much. This is a public hearing. I know we have at least one speaker. We're ready for you, public speaker.
The speaker, I believe his name is Tim Petropoulos.
I'll let Tim tell it.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. I can help you with that. Good evening, Mayor Brook, and to all the city commissioners here this evening. My name is Tim DiPietropolo, and
you did that very well, Tim. That sounded perfect.
Thank you, sir. Otherwise known as D12 in my military call sign. But I believe proper protocol is, would you like me to state my address for the record?
Please.
Okay. It's 5110 Northwest 85th Road, and that is in the city of Coral Springs. First of all, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all this evening. I would say more specifically to Ms. Krolak and your staff, I greatly appreciate the work that you do for all of the residents of the city of Coral Springs. I'd like to comment this evening on the proposed city ordinance here, this 2020-117. Specifically, I'd like to call your attention to section 250816, which is the amount of off-street parking, but more finitely to the residential uses section. I recognize that this section talks about minimum requirements for single family and two family dwellings. And I understand that this talks about the number of parking spaces required for, single family and two family homes. But I'd like to talk to the commission tonight because I see this as a grave matter of public safety. This is a concern because as you drive through many residential neighborhoods throughout the city of Coral Springs, you will find parking on both sides of the streets in many of the developments throughout the city. On any given evening in most neighborhoods, you will find these vehicles parked on both sides in front of the individual homeowners, which causes a significant traffic issue for two-way traffic to be able to safely pass. While most residents can give proper courtesy to one another to be able to pass through, when there's overnight street parking on both sides of the street, the safety concern, the public safety concern that I see here is that emergency vehicles from the fire department, Coral Springs Police Department, and the ambulance would not be able to transit through this residential neighborhood safely to be able to get to whatever emergency they're trying to handle the resident or take care of the resident. On almost every evening, you will find that there is restricted passage. And even if you have experienced it on a Saturday morning, you will hear the garbage truck and the recycling truck laying on their horns, begging the resident to come either move their receptacles so that the truck can service them or to move their vehicles. That's just one example of the large vehicles that transit through the residential neighborhoods that have a challenge. I understand the code doesn't speak to any restriction, and I know there's not an easy answer. As you all just spent the last 40 minutes talking about the wing place and run-ins and their parking challenges, I know this is a pretty significant issue, and I recognize that. But as we bring it up to homeowners associations, they defer to the city because, again, these are city roads that we all live and enjoy throughout the city of Coral Springs. Most recently, a call to code compliance as I tried to focus or work through the city on this. The code compliance office has really deferred me to contact the police department and have the police come and deal with that residential or that homeowner or tenant that happens to be in the property. In my personal opinion, this is not a good use of government resources to call the police because of an excessive amount of parking for single-family homes. In the end, I would respectfully ask you, Mayor Brook, and the city commissioners to discuss and to take into consideration placing limits on residential off-street overnight parking in residential neighborhoods for single-family and two-family homes through a revision to this ordinance 2020-117. I thank you again for your time and your consideration in allowing me to speak in this matter.
All right, you're very welcome. Thanks for being here. It's still a public hearing. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Julie or Frank, would you be kind enough to share with us your thoughts about the gentleman that just spoke to us?
Julie, is that covered under the code or no? You're on mute, Julie.
Just talking away. Sorry about that. Thank you, Frank. It's not, but actually we're not amending anything having to do with 1 and 2 single family or duplexes actually with this amendment. When working with Joaquin and looking at ITE, ITE actually recommended a lower count for single family and a lower requirement for single family, which we chose not to go with just for this reason, is that in that we know that we do tend to have more vehicles at our single family homes, maybe than some of the other cities or whatnot. So, but we are not changing anything with that portion of that code, while the other part of the amendment is there. So that's why it's listed to give you an idea of where it falls in the code. We're not changing anything for single family.
And then Mayor, on top of that, it's my understanding that we have restricted enforcement abilities when it comes to private roadways, when it comes to parking. Maybe John can speak to that.
Certainly. If you were talking about private roadways, then we would only be enforcing that if it interferes with our ability to respond either through fire or police or some blockage of public safety if it's on a private street. The gentleman, I think, just referred to residential. So in our code, we have defined certain roadways as residential and some as thoroughfares. And we list those thoroughfares, and on those you cannot park at all. But since the beginning of the city, like many cities, you are allowed to park on your residential public street, providing you are not blocking access to it. And there are times when we have had issues, and when we do, because there's sometimes, if depending on the width of the street, if there's a cars on both sides, we don't actually know who gets there first for sighting purposes, but we will. Usually it is through police. Sometimes it can be code. Talk to the neighborhoods and the neighbors and address that issue. It is sometimes an issue. It's something that this resident has brought up that if we choose, if the commission finds it something valuable, we could look into that, or if community development thinks it's something to look into, but it's really not the subject of your ordinance tonight.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve? Vice Mayor, you'd like to make a motion?
I can make a motion. I have a discussion option, but yes, I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Vignola. And discussion, back to you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So as you know, as a realtor, I show in a lot of different communities, some of them private, most of them not. And there is frequently signage as you enter the community that says parking on even number street or parking on the odd number of the street. And, I imagine it's enforced by police because these are not gated communities. And I know that over here by me, where I'm by Taravella, there's signs that say no parking on the street between the hours of whatever the hours of school are. So is there an opportunity based on those two scenarios for us to implement some type of change?
Well, it's absolutely something we can look into, but there is a difference between if that's on a private street,
public
traffic. Yeah, on a public street, we can look at if there is an issue. I know what you're saying, that you can park on only one side of the street, and you articulate what side of the street that is. Something we can look into. But that's not what this ordinance was looking at all. So
I'm trying to remedy the situation, and I think he lives in Pine Ridge.
Yeah, so I think that's something that community development's aware of, that we can look at that and get back to you.
Okay.
Sounds good. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. We're on to item number 7, ordinance 2020-118, first reading, amending the land development code to increase sewerage service rates and water rates.
This is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, amending the land development code of the City of Coral Springs to increase certain sewerage service rates and water rates, providing for codification, conflicts, severability, and providing for an effective date. Request to approve first reading, hold public hearing, and set second reading.
Great. Is there any presentation from staff?
No, good evening. This is Kim. I just wanted you to know that this is an increase of the 3.5% for residential and commercial accounts for the Coral Springs Water District only, based on the water and wastewater rate survey to fund operations and any capital repairs that we would need.
Gotcha. And thank you.
I'm sorry.
Kim. And this is a public hearing. Is that correct, John? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard?
Mayor, I do not have anyone online right now.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. And with that, we'll close the public hearing because we're coming up on 8:47, so I'm not going to extend it by another 30 seconds. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve and set second reading.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, carries unanimously. Next, we're on to consent. I'm going to pull items 8, 9, and 10. Are there any other pulls? Great. So seeing none, may I entertain a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda?
So move to approve.
Everybody at the same time. I'll give
give
it
a
to you,
second.
Commissioner Vignola, and second for Commissioner Sarah.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Just
You
glad
didn't
to
get
see
any time, Vice Mayor. What was that, Commissioner?
just glad to see number 12 moving forward.
Great. Any further discussion on the rest of the consent? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, carries unanimously. So I pulled 8, 9, and 10 to highlight some of the neighborhood partnership agreements. And my understanding is there are also partners that are going to be able to share with us too. So Frank, I'll kick it to you.
Mayor, we just wanted to talk a little bit about these neighborhood partnerships. They're a great benefit to the community, and these 3 bring us to a milestone where over the course of the program, we've spent about $1 million in neighborhood partnerships. So Julie can tell us a little bit more about that and who's here to kind of share this milestone with us.
Awesome.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, as Frank said, so with the approval of these 3, it'll be your 132nd, 133rd, and 134th neighborhood partnerships. 42% of that is paid by the city, and the rest are reinvestment of our neighborhoods within their own area. So it's definitely a great milestone. We're excited to reach it. As you mentioned, there is someone to speak on each of these. So Miss Brenda Sindich is here for Pelican Point.
Great. Welcome, Brenda. It's good to have you, and thanks for being a partner.
connecting her.
Yeah.
I saw something flash on the public comment.
Mr. Mayor, I might have lost her. Give me 1 minute, okay?
Sure, no problem. No problem. I see the vice mayor went to take a bite of something to eat, right? Got your drink.
I was out of water.
I'm glad some of you are moving on the screen. This way the people that are watching this don't think that they're frozen.
And Mayor, while we're waiting, Dr. Abramovitz, I'm sure I'm saying that's incorrectly, is going to be unable to make it after all. So if the commission would like to take care of the enclave while we wait,
Sounds great. So there's a request to approve item number 10 from staff. You'll move it, Commissioner Vignola.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Carter. She beat you that time, Sean. Any discussion? Rochelle got in touch with me before. She was excited to potentially be here, but she had a conflict this late. So, but Rochelle, thanks for being a partner with us. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, carries unanimously. Robert,
Mayor.
have we been able to get her?
Mayor, if we may,
Sure.
could we move to number 9? Unfortunately, Brenda is having a little trouble with her audio.
Okay. All right, very good. So on to item number 9, Julie.
And Mr. Steve Assail is here on behalf of the Pine Ridge Association.
Great. Welcome, Steve. Hopefully you're not with Brenda.
It takes Robert just a moment to work his magic.
Yeah, magic technically is an instant, so.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I have Steve on the line.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Steve.
How are you, Mayor Brooke?
Doing great. Doing great. Happy that you are the 133rd partnership and that we helped reach $1 million.
Wow. Oh, did we get an award?
You get an award? Yeah, you get to be with us tonight in this historic evening. This is the latest virtual meeting we will have had.
All right, I'm in.
So share with us a little bit about Pine Ridge and what you'll be doing with this partnership.
Sure. Well, this started probably about a year ago when I met with you, and I was explaining some of the things that our homeowner association was interested in, and you explained to me these funds that are available, and that started the process. And I've been working very diligently with Alex Nonamaker to move this thing along. And despite the COVID situation, we have managed to prevail, and I'm hoping tonight the powers that be will grant us the funding so we can move ahead and order the products that these dollars are meant to purchase, and hope that the environment in Pine Ridge. We've gotten very positive feedback from our membership. Virtually everyone that we talk to is in favor of us moving ahead with getting these dog waste stations installed throughout the community. And we're hoping that it will increase, the environment protection and improve the ambience of the community and maintain the property values. So thank you all for your efforts.
Well, certainly thanks for being here and thanks for being a partner with us. With that, is there somebody that would like to make a motion to approve this partnership?
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Vignola. Commissioner Sarah, you got the second. You're just not as fast as Larry,
I
Sean.
cannot beat him ever.
And kill it in Jeopardy.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
He's a veteran.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Thank you. Was Brenda able to get back on, Deborah or Robert?
I'm going to wait to see if Robert responds.
Sure.
I hate to text him if he's actually, making it happen.
All right. Thank you, Justin. And Justin, you've been doing a great job too for us. So thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
Well, hello, Mayor.
I have Brenda on the line.
All right. Hello, Brenda. Welcome to our commission meeting. Tell us about Pelican Point and what you're going to do with our 132nd partnership.
Well, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Mayor Brook, and the commissioners. I'm on the board of directors, and I'm here to thank you on behalf of the board of directors and the residents of Pelican Point for approving the grant for our entrance sign refacing. We have a 21-year-old sign that is very tired looking and needs an uplift and a lot of updating. So I think this is going to really help us update our community. And we're in Wyndham Lakes. It's on Wyndham Lakes Drive. So it's going to benefit the community quite a bit. A big upgrade for us. So we're very appreciative of the Neighborhood Partnership Program. And I'd also like to thank Senior City Planner Alex Nunemaker for all of the assistance he provided in this process. So thank you all, and take care and stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks for getting on with us. And thank you, Alex. I see you're on the call too. Wonderful. May I entertain a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
You got in, Commissioner Sarah. That's so awesome.
I'm so excited.
Seconded by Vice Mayor. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. You can tell me what's up next, John, because I've got to pull up the agenda.
Yep, okay, so we are on number 14 under policy formation and direction. Ordinance 2020-106, which is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, amending section 12-48 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Coral Springs entitled Service Retirement Benefits. In order to be consistent with the recently negotiated collective bargaining agreement, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for an effective date. We've already had first reading. We've already had our public hearing. This is just second reading, request to adopt.
Great. Any further questions of Dale, or are you ready to move? Commissioner Sarah.
Move to approve.
It's on fire.
And Vice Mayor, you want to be the seconder?
Second.
All right, great. Any discussion?
I'm cleaning up a mess from my dog right now who threw up. So
All right. So that's how Sean is beating you to the buzzer.
He's always so competitive. You can't admit that I beat him.
Exactly.
Basketball again.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Carries unanimously. Next is item number 15, ordinance 2020-116, second reading of the budget amendment.
This is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, pursuant to section 166.041 Florida statutes to amend ordinance 2019-124 as amended by ordinance 2019-126 and ordinance 2019-128, finalizing and adopting the annual operating budget and capital improvement program for fiscal year 2019-20 by amending Exhibit A of the annual operating budget and Exhibit B of the capital improvement program, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. Again, we've had public hearing and first reading. This is second reading, request to adopt.
All right. Somebody like to move that?
Move to approve.
Vice Mayor?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sarah. Any discussion? All in favor?
Not quick.
Not sure what he said, but we'll move on. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Next is item number 16, ordinance 2020-108, second reading, repealing and amending certain sections of the Code of the City of Coral Springs.
It's an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, repealing Chapter 3 of the Code of the City of Coral Springs entitled Administrative and User Fees in its entirety. Repealing Section 13-1 of the Code of the City of Coral Springs entitled Police Department Administrative Service Fees in its entirety. Amending certain sections of the Code of the City of Coral Springs to maintain consistency, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and providing for an effective date. Again, a second reading request to adopt.
Okay, may I entertain a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Sarah, seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any discussion? You're doing great there, Sean.
Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. And lastly, under this two more under this section. Ordinance 2012, second reading, 2020-112, second reading, Land Development Code.
I just want to say, Commissioner Sarah, it doesn't matter who starts the game, but who finishes the game. This is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, amending certain sections of the Land Development Code of the City of Coral Springs to maintain consistency for user fees, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for an effective date. Again, this is second reading, and this is the one that's aligned to the previous one, 2020-108. Request to adopt.
And again, thank you, staff, for all your work to get us here. Commissioner Sarah, I'm going to let you go to it.
Wow, I'm on a roll. I'll move to approve.
All right. Commissioner Simmons, I saw the second, even though you were muted. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. And then last one is item number 18, Resolution 2020-018.
Mayor, our Budget Director, Kathleen Givens, can give us a little bit of insight on this. This is related to the last two items that you've just passed.
Great, thank you and welcome, Catherine.
Good evening. In discussions leading up to the adopting of the financial policies last year, we did not want our admin and user fees to go for long periods of time without having more frequent cost recovery studies. This was a goal to review those frequencies and make sure that our fees are adequately being addressed. Therefore, the police department was selected about a year ago. The last time their fees were reviewed by an outside consultant, GSG, was 20 years ago. So as I said in the individual briefing, some of these fees were increased slightly by $1, $2, $3, or decreased. Some stayed the same. And then you have larger increases and decreases just because the nature of the work has changed over the past 20 years. There are also 3 other items outside the police department that were previously discussed as well. So any questions, please let me know.
Great, any questions? Nope, thank you very much. It's a request to approve.
Approve.
Moved by Commissioner Vignola. He's back, and he beat you, Sean.
Second.
Finishing the game.
By Vice Mayor. That's right. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right, carries unanimously. All right, next we are on to, I believe it's Commissioner Communications. I got my agenda on my phone, and it disappeared.
That's correct, Mayor.
You're correct.
All right, who'd like to go first?
I will.
Vice Mayor Carter, first to the bell.
Thank
Go.
you. So I just want to remind everybody, as Marty Kier said from Broward County Property Appraisers, your trim notices are arriving in your mailbox. We are here to help. Our budget department is here to answer any questions. If you have any petitions you want to file, September 18th is your deadline.
Yeah, I forgot to update real quick.
John, you're on mute.
bcpa.net. Mr. Mayor, I am asking you to continue your pleas with the county and the other mayor calls to see if we can get an additional hour for our restaurants to be open. If we can pass a resolution, if there's something we can do, because I really don't think that extra hour is harmful, in my opinion. And I feel that if they can turn the tables twice, it really will be helpful to them in surviving. And
you know, I definitely will do that. You know, one of the things I've done, and it would be great if you guys can push for it too. You know, when I have these Zoom meetings or we appear in these Zoom meetings, we engage in dialogue and there's some back and forth. And unfortunately, none of these mayor calls have been a Zoom meeting, and I've asked for it a couple of times. So my suggestion would be if all of you can lobby Mayor Holness, maybe Bertha, maybe even some of the other mayors, to make the next call a Zoom call, I think we can get a much better feel, because I believe there's majority support for it, and especially if we engage in dialogue, because we're not, I don't think that there's a safety reason to not extend for that second seating. People that think it's too risky, they're not coming for any seating. And people that want to have the opportunity, and the businesses that want to supply that service, I'd like to give them that opportunity. Frank?
Mayor, just quickly on that note, I did speak to the county administrator, and the cities continue to work with the county and in trying to bring this to resolution. So we will continue to do so. And I agree. We need to get the restaurants the extra hour, and I think we will be successful in doing so. But we are working with the county at this point to make to look at that.
Great.
I'm happy to reach out to the administrator and to Mayor Holness. I'll do that tonight.
Sounds great.
So also, I don't know if you're all aware that marketing has given us COVID business friendly kits, and I've been out delivering them. So don't worry if you haven't. I'm going to take some of yours because I ran out. So I do want to encourage you to visit local businesses. I was actually chastised by one of the businesses. Actually, we were all chastised except you, Commissioner Sarah. And I was like, why? I eat here often, and even during the pandemic. And they said, yeah, but you never asked me how I'm doing. And this is what really surprised me about that whole experience was, apparently when we present ourselves on social media at a business, it's helpful to that business. And this is one time in our careers that we need to be helpful to these businesses. So as much as I distaste social media and telling people where I'm eating or what I'm doing it. If it helps, I'm doing it. Okay, so that's my pulpit for that one. Okay, signs. Y'all know it's a point of contention for me, and I am grateful that the rules have been relaxed during this pandemic. Earlier when Mr. Kapish made some very valid points, I just wanted to clarify that signs are removed when they're located in city medians or if they present a hazard. So other than that, signs are pretty relaxed at the moment. Definitely when the pandemic changes, things are going to go back. Not necessarily excited about that, but we did already vote on that. So I just wanted to be sure to point that out. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Great. I'm glad that you're bringing the signs to the businesses and getting beyond your comfort zone and saying, okay, I'll post that social media picture. I think it's very helpful too.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Sarah, I'll let you go next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to do
Larry to the punch.
What's that?
I'll let you beat Larry to the punch.
I thought you moved for me to go next. I just wanted to congratulate all of our educators and students. From what I'm hearing, it was a great first day back. Obviously, we wish we were in bricks and mortar, but we will survive, and ultimately we'll get back on campus when it's healthy and safe. So just want to wish you guys the very best 2020-21 school year. And Mr. Simmons, thank you for what you do in the classroom and beyond. As far as the small businesses, I couldn't have said it any better than Vice Mayor Carter. We all have to do our part to support Coral Springs and the businesses within. It's imperative that they know that we have their back, and they obviously have ours. And just when we get out there, I'm not good at social media either, Vice Mayor. So, but I like your recommendation, and I will take the challenge. So I will post, even though I don't really enjoy doing that. But it is a critical time for us, and I really like the idea of reaching out to the county and trying to get it on Zoom, because I believe it's been 2 consecutive weeks that they've been talking about this when we can probably take action now. So I know the city of Coral Springs and our leadership is behind it, but we got to get the county to relax that by at least an hour. As far as kudos, I wanted to give a shout out to our community involvement unit. They did a great job with the book bags and the distribution. They've been doing this for years. a very special group. Really enjoyed the experience. Kudos to our Budget Academy. Just a really great concept and way to engage our community and residents. And for you guys to have 30 seats and have 23 participate first time out is just tremendous. And it will definitely help educate our residents on some of the work that we do, especially when we're trying to determine our budget and keep taxes reasonable. Also wanted to give out the biggest shout out and kudos to Richard Mashad. I know that he deferred joining us this evening. He wants to wait until he's in person, but 29 years of service and just someone that I really enjoyed working with this past year. Mad respect for him and a lot of great things that he's accomplished as a leader within Coral Springs. I too agree with Vice Mayor. We're on a roll tonight about the signs. You know, the one thing I will say though is when I was out at the library and it was early voting, there were some people that had like 20 or 25 signs. I'm not for that. I'm definitely for relaxing it and trying to give the candidates not only within our city, but at the county level, every opportunity to expose themselves, especially during this difficult time. But I do think that we need to have some kind of expectations and some limitations on what we can do. So I know I reached out to Jackie that day. I appreciate her taking my call. I know she does a great job trying to manage that, but maybe we need to workshop that or continue the conversation. And the last thing I wanted to say is that if you need to reach me, I can be contacted on my cell phone, which is 954-612-7114. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, you're welcome, Commissioner Sarah. Thank you very much. Larry, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. First off, I want to thank Alex Hernandez. Had a resident reach out. They had an issue with a permit from many years ago, and they were looking to get rid of their home. They were selling their home and downsizing. It took care of an issue extremely quickly. The resident was really happy. So I just want to thank you. Also, Christy, we had a potential buyer of a property looking to do something nice and big here in Coral Springs. I connected her with him real quick and already started conversations, which is great. Chief Perry had a resident reach out to me with an issue with the police department and was taken care of, and probably within about 10 minutes right before this meeting. So you know, it's great how responsive our staff is and making sure that everything gets taken care of so well. With that, on my list of things here, I had Rich Mashad. You know, Scott, you had a long time working with Rich, and as have I. And I tell you, his professionalism across the board has just been amazing. I've never had an issue, complaint, or anything that wasn't taken care of immediately. You know, he's our public works director, worked for the city for 29 years, fleet, facilities, streets, you know, all the different things. But my favorite thing is when we were doing the garbage contract and we were talking trash with Rich Mashad at all our committee meetings and all those things. And it was kind of a fun thing. But Rich has been awesome. And thank you for everything you've done for our community. A couple more things. Census takers are going to be coming around and visiting homes. For those of you that have not filled out the census. So don't be surprised if people are out there coming by and knocking on doors. Back to school, I know it's been brought up. I had everyone in my house is back at home at school, but we have little workstations kind of set up around the house. And I know it's different, it's weird, but thank you to all the teachers and administrators and staff and everyone working hard to make sure that our kids are able to stay safe and still continue their education at this time. And all the parents out there, I know it's a little difficult, it's a little bit of a struggle, but you know, it's great to see that kids are continuing on. Just want to point out there's an investigation 98L out there that a little bit of a tropical disturbance looked like it's got a chance to develop. And if it were to impact our area in any way, shape, or form, it looks like it'll be probably early next week. Just keep an eye on that. I think that's important. I know staff's on top of it. But if you need any supplies or anything like that, don't wait till the last minute. Just go out there, get some waters and different things, whatever it is you need to kind of restock. It is the heading into the busy part of the storm season, and make sure that you have everything that you need for you and your family. And with that, if anyone has any, oh, you know what? One more thing, Mayor, you'll appreciate this. Rochelle Abramowitz has been texting me. She wanted to thank the commission and the city for going forward with that. So if anyone wants to reach me on anything, please feel free to reach me directly on my cell phone, 954-632-7544. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Simmons, how's your baby?
Oh, she's good. Shine has her now. You've been on the computer since 7:30 this morning.
God bless you.
Gonna need some glasses soon. Yeah, shout out to all the teachers starting school. It's definitely not how we all hoped it would be. I know that's not how I expected it to be, because I really just felt that if we buckled down, do what we have to do, then we wouldn't even have to discuss school reopening. But not going to tread that back up. We know how much controversy I've caused on that issue. But shout out to all the teachers doing everything they can to get ready. Getting familiar with all these different options and modes and Canvas, and just connecting things, and all the students that actually were there on time today and had their cameras on, and that's some really positive stuff to see. So shout out to all the teachers kind of doing their best, doing what they can to make sure students are learning. And thank you to the teachers that helped get me ready and acclimated. There are some really incredible teachers out there that make me wish I was a better teacher, because they're just so awesome. So shout out to them. What else did I want to say? I don't know. That's pretty much where my mind is. I'm focused on school. So I'll just say that I don't know if there's anything I'm supposed to bring up. I can't remember. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my comments.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. So I just want to tell you all what an honor it is to work with all of you. So I've had a deep appreciation for staff, predecessors, colleagues on the commission for many, many years. But I have to tell you that during COVID, it's just at another level, because it's easy to maybe not be so patient or so creative or innovative during this time. So many people are going through so much, and I'm sure many of our employees are not immune to tough times, and experiencing this in difficult ways. And yet the professionalism you guys are sharing day in, day night, I'm tired, you can tell. Day and night is just fantastic. So I really appreciate that. So the same business owner that kind of did a little shaming, I have to say, didn't really appreciate the shaming part, but I flipped that into what did he mean in terms of the invitation? And I've accepted the invitation to go visit his business, say hello. And then I decided, let me just put out the invitation myself for small businesses here to email me. You want me to come visit your business? Just send me an email, sbrook@coralsprings.org. I'm going to do it every Friday for the next several Fridays, indefinitely. So I know a few people reached out already. I'll be visiting a couple of businesses on Thursday as well. And if you need me, I'm a phone call away. You don't have to shame any one of us on Facebook or any social media. If you want something from us, I just request respectfully, with love and with humility, just call us, just ask us. All five of us, Larry, Joshua, Sean, Joy, and myself, we care about you guys. We love our community. We don't always have to agree with what you're requesting, but we, all five of us, will always listen to your request, respect your request, and give you the time of day. So I'd invite you, when you do get angry, and like I said, it is easy to be angry during these times, pause, take a breath, and make the invitation. Make the invitation to anyone you want, whether it's your government official, your friend, your neighbor, your daughter, your dad. Make the invitation that they help you with something you need help with, instead of making them wrong for not having helped you yet. So that's my kind request that I'm making, not just of the business owners, but really of all of our community. We're all going through something that is highly unusual, if not difficult. And if you see me or some of us posting and we're celebrating something, it's not meant to be at the expense of anybody else. And there's obviously only so many businesses we can get to. But if you want us to stop by, there really are 5 of us. Chances are one of us can accommodate you. I'm putting myself out there for a 15-minute visit. We'll take some pictures. I will ask you how I can help you. And hopefully you feel like we're doing right by you. I'm committed to the mental wellness of our community. And I'm very proud that our Mental Wellness Networking Alliance continues to grow. Again, you're all invited to attend. We meet virtually the first Wednesday of every month. We have a new website. It's called getmentalwellness.com. And we have a new logo. Eliminate was kind of long. And the new logo slogan, you can post it anywhere you want. Call it Break the Stigma. And our goal is to break the stigma that's associated with mental illness. When you flip it, we all want mental wellness, right? We all want mental wellness. So somebody with bipolar, anxiety, depression, they shouldn't be embarrassed to tell anybody that they have it. And if we have somebody like that in our family or our colleagues, should never be embarrassed. And there are always resources. Matter of fact, give me a moment. I got a bunch of these guides, and I'm going to bring them to City Hall if it's okay with you. They're family resource guides, and they're put out by 211. Obviously, not that many people are coming to City Hall, but it's a resource guide for anybody in need about so many different resources, whether it's mental health, financial, regarding your home. It's a great resource guide. It's, it's got about 100 pages of resources. So I definitely want to share that. There are resources in our community for most things. I know we have, Frank, where you have the August 24 application timeframe for what type of funding, if you don't mind sharing or having staff talk about it.
So we announced the additional rental and mortgage assistance program through the CARES Act funding. Applications will be starting on August 24th. They can go to coralsprings.org and all the information will be on there for that. Great.
Thank you for that. And if we could, I would appreciate if we can post a link for how somebody can get this resource guide. I don't know if they have it online, but it's so valuable. It's been around for a long time and most people aren't aware of it.
Yeah, 211's a good partner, so we'll look into that.
Great, thank you. I have office hours most Fridays, especially during this time, and you can call up Luam at 954-344-5911, I believe. I think sometimes I may give the wrong number, not on purpose, but I believe it's 344-5911 or 5906. You can also email or text me directly, 954-494-9872. I believe I'm booked this Friday, but if I can help you, I'd love to help you. It's a privilege. Congratulations on all of you that had your first day of school back, students, teachers, staff, principals. You guys are great. We love our education, our community, and all the teachers. You made such a big difference for all 5 of my children, and now you're teaching my 3 grandchildren, and thank you so much for what you do. I think that's all I have. Let me just double check. Again, just Frank, to reiterate, I really want to get that info on the lien resolution program and maybe sit with you and whoever the top staff people are to discuss it. And that's all I have. Thanks everybody for your professionalism and for your commitment to our community. So with that, is it Frank first and then you, John? Great.
So I'd like to just start off with some really good news. So we've had a longstanding partnership with the city of Parkland, providing fire, EMS, and community risk reduction services. And I'm happy to let you know that, our contract is up for renewal as of October 1st. I want to thank everybody that helped work on this. Legal was instrumental as usual. But Parkland Commission unanimously approved a 5-year contract, a new 5-year contract with the City of Coral Springs tonight.
Right.
It went to their commission, and obviously it'll come back to our commission now. We'll get a full briefing on that, and then it'll come before our commission for approval. I just want to thank the City Manager, Nancy Mirando, the Mayor, and the Parkland Commission for their partnership, and we work really well together when it comes to public safety. So just wanted to let you guys know that.
That's good news.
And I just found that out because their meeting's actually happening at the same time ours is. COVID-19 cases continue to be on a downward trend. We hope this continues. Please keep your protective measures in place. That's why it's going down. So remain vigilant and follow the CDC guidelines. I want to extend our condolences to the Broward Sheriff's Office on the passing of one of their lieutenants from COVID. They lost him on Sunday. We have reached out on behalf of the commission and on behalf of the city, and myself and Chief Perry have both reached out to offer any assistance that we possibly can, and our thoughts are with them on that. Our testing over at Mullins, we've tested over 20,000 people at that site. It remains a very busy site, and it's working very well. So thank you to staff on that. They're working hard to keep that going forward. As a reminder, we're doing a blood drive that comes with a free antibody test this Friday, right across the street from City Hall at the old City Hall spot from 9 to 3. You must pre-register, so you can go to coralsprings.org to sign up to be part of that blood donation or drive. Slice of Springs is coming up, Mayor, August 31st at 6:30. So we encourage our residents to participate. You can watch through social media, live stream, and City TV. You can ask questions. All of our departments will be represented, and it's a good way to share and get information. Elections went very well at City Hall and all of our election sites yesterday. All the sites were properly sanitized. Staff was here last night and early this morning, making sure that all of our staff was safe. So thank you for that, taking care of that. Commissioner Vignola mentioned about the census trackers. I just want to let you know that we're almost at 68% response in Coral Springs. Our goal is 80%, so we're almost there. So let's keep going. Let's surpass that goal. Today was the first day of school. You guys have mentioned it, and I just want to welcome everybody back to school virtually. Thank you to all of our teachers and all the staff out there that take the responsibility on of forming our youth and teaching our youth. Rich was mentioned a couple times. Rich has asked that he be recognized when we can get back together in person, but I do want to just thank Rich for his over 29 years of service to the city. He was a true professional, somebody that we could always count on, and just a man of integrity. And I just can't say enough about him. But at the appropriate time, we will appropriately recognize him for his years of leadership and dedicated service to this community. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Great. There was one thing I forgot, and one thing just popped up on Facebook. There's Lysol at the Publix on Coral Ridge Drive in Sample. Can you believe it? So if you need some Lysol, pop on over there. But I forgot to ask everybody, and I'm not just asking yet, Jackie Bolden has requested that we consider giving Dottie Ruffin and another individual that started the Links 25 years ago a key to the city. So before I make that request, I'm going to ask staff to remind us all about some protocol for keys by memo, and then potentially bring this particular issue up at the next commission meeting or commission workshop. But that's certainly a request I wanted to pass along. The Links have been a great organization in our community, and I know that Dottie unfortunately lost her husband recently, and I do appreciate that we're going to have a day in John's honor, but I forgot to mention that earlier. So excuse me for delaying your presentation, John.
So, Mayor, before John goes, John, are you going to bring up the November 4th meeting?
I am.
If you could, thank you.
I am. So the first item, I have two items. I know it's late, but to remind the commission, we've had several conversations. As you know, we have two regular meetings. The first meeting for the last several years has been in the morning. There's been two workshops we discussed whether or not to move it. It has come up recently, and I want to just remind the commission, and I know Deborah has calendared it, that the direction of the commission at its June workshop was that we were going to wait until all the newly elected officials are in place, and then we will have a vote on what to do with the first regular meeting. So you can expect that probably realistically the first meeting in December, no later than that, maybe the last meeting in November, to take effect in January. So wanted to give you that update. Also an update, a couple of times I brought up and sent out a memo concerning the charter referenda that Broward County was doing concerning the regional parks. And we were opposing the regional park charter amendment that was going to go for referendum that would allow them to put structures on there without going through our zoning code. The last update I gave you was that the county agreed to work with the cities and to delay putting it on and to see if we could have an agreement worked out with the cities and the county so they would delay it at least 2 years. The vote to put it on was 5-4. It needed to be 6-3. Well, they're having a special meeting Thursday because there may be a reconsideration from some of the elected officials that they may be putting that on. So we already have passed a resolution. We have resent it down there about our opposition, as have many other cities done that. And we will be monitoring that meeting. It's at 1 o'clock tomorrow. It's a special meeting. And Deputy City Attorney Sherry Whitaker will be monitoring it. We will provide you information as soon as that meeting is over. So I wanted to give you that update. That is all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I hope you have a good evening. Stay safe. And everybody enjoy your second day of school if you're going back tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for a great meeting, everybody.
Night.
We appreciate it. Good night.